Hello and welcome to what could be the most interesting journey you take tonight. I'm glad you chose to spend this quiet hour with me learning about one of your body's most important systems. If you're already enjoying this gentle exploration, I'd love for you to sign up and join our growing group of people who are curious about the everyday miracles happening inside of us. And no matter where you are in the world tonight, whether you're in a cozy bedroom in Minnesota, a quiet flat in London, or maybe even under the Southern Cross, know that these amazing biological processes I'm about to tell you about connect us all. We're going to slowly and peacefully dive into your urinary system tonight. I know what you're thinking. How could kidneys be interesting, let alone relaxing? But I promise that when we're done, you'll never think of these quiet bean-shaped workers the same way again. They've been doing a symphony of chemistry and physics every minute of every day since before you were born. Your kidneys are like the Swiss Army knives of your body. They can do many things at once. You might be busy with work, laughing, worrying, and dreaming, but they're quietly doing more than a dozen different jobs with such precision that a master craftsman would be envious. They're chemists who work with the most fragile equations. They are engineers who keep an eye on flow and pressure. They even make hormones that send chemical signals all over your body. Before we look at each part of the urinary system, let's look at it as a whole, like looking at a beautiful landscape before we look at the trees. Imagine, if you will, a beautiful processing plant that fits perfectly in the back of your abdomen, just below your rib cage. This isn't a harsh factory. It's more like a master artisan's workshop, where every tool has its place and every step serves a greater purpose. There are four main parts to your urinary system, and each one has its own personality and role in this quiet drama. The kidneys are the first thing we see. There are two of them, each about the size of your fist, and they sit like bookends on either side of your spine. The ureters come next. They are thin tubes that act like highways for the processed liquid that is moving south. Next is your bladder, which is a very flexible storage space that expands and contracts like a soft accordion. Last but not least is the urethra, the last part of this carefully planned journey. But tonight we're going to spend most of our time with those kidney beans, which is what they look like, right? Someone in the past looked at these organs and thought, those look a lot like the beans in my garden. This is one of those naming conventions that makes perfect sense, unlike so many medical terms that seem to be meant to confuse instead of explain. Your kidneys are about the same weight as a bar of soap, which is about 150 grams. However, they get about 20% of all the blood your heart pumps. Take a moment to think about that. These small organs are always moving 1/5 of your blood supply. It's like a small city getting the same amount of traffic as a big city. Your kidneys have made a great deal with your cardiovascular system for some very valuable real estate. When you learn more about what they do, you'll see how this amazing blood flow serves a purpose. Every day, your kidneys filter about 180 litres of blood plasma. That's about the same amount of space as 4 regular bathtubs. Every morning, you would fill 4 bathtubs with water, run every drop through the most advanced filtration system ever made, and then do it again the next day, and the next, without ever stopping. As we go deeper into our exploration, let me tell you what's going on in each kidney right now as you read these words. Think of a busy, three-dimensional city with millions of small neighborhoods, each with its own tiny water treatment plant. You have about 1 million nephrons in each kidney, and these are the neighborhoods that make up your kidneys. There are 2 million tiny water treatment plants that work all the time, never take a vacation, and never call in sick. Each nephron is like a small version of your whole kidney. It has its own recycling center, filtration system, and quality control department. If you could shrink yourself down to the size of a red blood cell and take a tour through just one nephron, you'd see that each part has its own architecture and purpose, and they all work together to make the kidney work. The renal corpuscle is where the journey starts. It sounds very mysterious, doesn't it? This is where the magic happens for the first time. Your blood meets the kidney's filtering system. Imagine a small, hollow ball made of the thinnest mesh you can think of. It's so thin that it makes the most expensive tea strainer look like a colander. Bowman's capsule, which is shaped like a cup, holds this ball, which is called the glomerulus. Sir William Bowman first described it in the 1840s. The glomerulus is an amazing piece of biological engineering. The walls are made up of special cells called podocytes, which means foot cells, because they have tiny foot-like projections that fit together to make slits that filter things at exactly the right size. These slits are about 25 nanometers wide, which is about 2,000 times smaller than the width of a hair. This isn't by chance. The size is carefully chosen so that some molecules can pass through while others can't. The glomerulus is where your kidneys first decide what stays in your blood and what gets filtered out. This glomerular filter is a very picky bouncer. Proteins and blood cells, which are big molecules, are politely but firmly turned away. They're too big for the club, so to speak. But smaller molecules, like water, salts, glucose, urea, and other dissolved things, get special treatment and go straight into Bowman's capsule. But this is where it gets really nice. Your kidneys don't just filter things at random, like water running through sand. The filtration pressure is carefully controlled so that it stays at the right level for efficient processing without harming the fragile filtering membranes. The blood pressure in the glomerular capillaries, the pressure in Bowman's capsule, and the osmotic pressure created by proteins in the blood all work together to control this pressure. The pressure in the glomerular capillaries is usually around 60 millimeters of mercury, which is much higher than the pressure in most other capillary beds in your body. This high pressure is needed to make filtration happen, but it needs to be carefully controlled. If the pressure is too high, the delicate membranes that filter the air could be damaged. If it gets too low, the filtering will slow down or stop completely. The afferent arteriole brings blood into the glomerulus, and the efferent arteriole carries blood away. These two sets of arterioles work together to control the pressure. Your kidneys can change the filtration pressure in your body by making these tiny blood vessels smaller or bigger. It's like having a pressure valve on a water system that automatically changes to keep things running smoothly. Our filtered fluid, which is now called filtrate, starts its journey through the nephrons processing pipeline from Bowman's capsule. It doesn't look much like urine yet. This filtrate is like raw material, like crude oil that needs to be refined, or rough gemstones that need to be cut and polished. The filtrate has water, electrolytes, glucose, amino acids, vitamins, hormones, toxins, and waste products in it. In other words, it has everything that is small enough to pass through the glomerular filter. The proximal tubule is the first stop on this journey. It winds and curves like a country road through the kidney tissue. Proximal means nearby, and this part is indeed close to where the filtering started. But just because they have similar names doesn't mean they work the same way. The proximal tubule is probably the most active part of the nephron because it is in charge of getting back about 80% of the sodium and water that were first filtered out. The cells that make up the proximal tubule are works of art. If you could look at them under a strong microscope, you would see that their surfaces are covered in millions of tiny projections called microvilli. This makes them look like the surface of a terry cloth towel or a shag carpet. This greatly increases the surface area that can be reabsorbed, which lets these cells reclaim important substances with great speed. These microvilli make such a large surface area that if you could flatten it out, it would cover more ground than a tennis court. This is where your kidneys show how smart they are. They don't just take back everything the same way. They choose which substances to take in, putting the ones your body needs most at the top of the list. For example, almost all of the glucose is recovered under normal conditions. In fact, less than 0.1% of filtered glucose shows up in the final urine. Your body used energy to make or get that sugar, and your kidneys won't let it go to waste. The way glucose is reabsorbed is very elegant. Sodium glucose cotransporters are special transport proteins that use the energy stored in the sodium gradient to bring glucose back into the blood. Like using a water wheel to run a grain mill, the flowing sodium gives the energy needed to move the glucose against its concentration gradient. This system works so well that it can take glucose back even when there is more of it in the filtrate than in the blood. Amino acids, which are the parts that make up proteins, also get special treatment. There are special transport systems that recognize different types of amino acids and make sure that these important molecules are returned to the bloodstream. It is also important to carefully reclaim vitamins, especially water-soluble ones like vitamin C and the B-complex vitamins, so that they don't get lost in urine. But the proximal tubule doesn't just bring things back into the blood. It also actively releases some things into the urine that is forming, like unwanted guests being shown the door, organic acids, some drugs, and other toxins are pumped out of the blood and into the tubule. This secretory function is very important for getting rid of things that the glomerulus might not be able to filter out well, either because they're stuck to proteins or because they're being actively reabsorbed somewhere else in the nephron. The proximal tubule's secretory mechanisms are very advanced. They can tell the difference between things that should be thrown away and things that should be kept by looking at their molecular structure, concentration, and the body's current needs. The proximal tubule actively secretes some medications, which is why kidney function needs to be taken into account when figuring out how much to give. As our filtrate moves along, it gets smaller and changes its composition. It then comes across one of the most clever pieces of biological engineering ever made, the loop of Henle. This structure, which looks like a hairpin turn, goes deep into the kidney tissue before curving back up toward the surface. It is named after Friedrich Henle, a German anatomist who wrote about it in the 19th century. The loop of Henle works on a principle that would make any engineer proud: the countercurrent multiplier system. Don't be scared off by the technical name. The idea is actually very simple, even though the way it works is very complicated. Picture two hallways in a building. One has people walking down it with hot coffee, and the other has people walking up it with ice cream. When the coffee carriers and the ice cream carriers pass each other, the heat moves from one to the other. The temperature differences have gotten worse by the time everyone gets to where they're going. Your loop of Henle does something like that, but it changes the amount of salt instead of the temperature. The loop has two parts: a descending limb that lets water through but stops salt, and an ascending limb that actively pumps salt out but keeps water from following. This makes a great system for making urine stronger or weaker depending on what your body needs. As the filtrate moves down the loop's descending limb, it moves through saltier and saltier areas created by the ascending limb's salt-pumping action. Osmosis pulls water out of the filtrate, which makes the rest of the fluid more concentrated. As the loop goes deeper into the kidney tissue, the environment around it becomes more concentrated, and more water is taken out of the filtrate. The filtrate has gotten very concentrated at the hairpin turn at the bottom of the loop. It can be up to 4 times more concentrated than blood plasma. But now it starts its journey back up the ascending limb, where salt is actively pumped out and water is kept from following. This takes salt out of the filtrate while keeping the concentrated environment that lets water leave in the descending limb. The best thing about this system is that it makes its own power. The salt that is pumped out of the ascending limb makes the concentration gradient that moves water out of the descending limb. This in turn makes the filtrate that flows around the loop more concentrated, giving the ascending limb more salt to pump out. It works in a way that keeps going on its own, and it can make urine concentrations much higher than what would be possible with just filtering. Your kidneys can make urine that is 4 times more concentrated than your blood plasma when you are dehydrated, like after a long day in the sun or when you have been busy with work and forgot to drink enough. This lets your body get rid of waste while keeping water that is important to you. It's like having a master distiller inside you, separating the important things from the unimportant ones with incredible accuracy. The length of the Henle loop controls how concentrated urine can get. Some of the loops in humans go deep into the kidney's medulla, while others stay short. Animals that live in deserts, like kangaroo rats, have very long loops of Henle, which let them make urine so concentrated that they can live without drinking water. Instead, they get all the fluids they need from the metabolism of dry seeds. The next stop on our journey is the distal tubule, which is the distant part that is farther away from the first filtering site. The proximal tubule is like a busy loading dock that takes back most of the valuable cargo. The distal tubule is like a customs office that makes final decisions about what stays and what goes, focusing on fine-tuning the body's chemical balance. This is where your kidneys show off their skills as master chemists, changing the acid-base balance in your body with the same care as a lab technician. Your blood's pH must stay in a very small range, usually between 7.35 and 7.45, for your cells to work properly. The kidney's ability to control its pH is one of its most important jobs, because even small changes outside of this range can have serious effects. Is there too much acid in your body? The distal tubule can pump extra hydrogen ions into the urine while keeping bicarbonate in the blood. This removes acid and adds base to bring the pH back to normal. It can turn the process around, keeping hydrogen ions while letting bicarbonate leave the body in urine. This is biochemical art at its best. It keeps your blood pH in the narrow range that keeps your enzymes happy and your cells working well. The ways that this pH regulation works are very complicated. There are two types of intercalated cells that are spread out throughout the distal tubule and collecting duct. When the body is too acidic, type A intercalated cells release acid and take in bicarbonate. Type B intercalated cells do the opposite. They reabsorb acid and secrete bicarbonate when the body is too alkaline. The kidney can change how these different types of cells work, depending on what the body needs right now. The distal tubule also helps control your blood pressure by controlling how much sodium and potassium you have. Hormones like aldosterone, which your adrenal glands can make these cells absorb more or less sodium. This has a direct effect on blood volume and pressure. More sodium reabsorption means that the body holds onto more water, which makes the blood volume and pressure go up. When less sodium is reabsorbed, more sodium and water are lost in urine. This lowers blood volume and pressure. This regulation of sodium and potassium is more complicated than just keeping or getting rid of them. There are sodium-potassium pumps in the distal tubule cells that actively move these ions. The activity of these pumps can be changed by different hormones and local factors. When aldosterone levels are high, sodium reabsorption and potassium secretion both go up. The opposite happens when aldosterone levels are low. The way sodium and potassium are handled is very important because these two ions have opposite effects on blood pressure and cellular function. Sodium raises blood pressure and holds onto water, while potassium lowers blood pressure and makes you urinate more. The kidney's ability to control these two ions on its own gives it precise control over how the heart and blood vessels work. The filtered fluid, which has changed a lot since it started its journey, finally reaches the collecting duct, which is the nephron's last processing station. Many nephrons send their processed filtrate to each collecting duct, which are like streams flowing into a river. This is where the hormone vasopressin, also known as antidiuretic hormone, or ADH, makes the final decisions about how much water to reabsorb. The collecting duct is the last place your kidneys can change the concentration of urine based on what your body needs right now. Aquaporins are special water channels in the cells that line the collecting duct. They can be added to or taken away from the cell membrane in response to hormones. When ADH levels are high, more aquaporins are added to the membrane. This makes the duct more permeable to water and lets more water be reabsorbed. DH levels go up when you need to save water, like when you're dehydrated, sleeping through the night, or just not drinking enough. This makes the walls of the collecting duct more permeable to water. Water rushes out of the urine that is forming and back into your bloodstream. This makes the urine stronger and keeps your body's valuable fluid reserves safe. When you drink enough water, your ADH levels go down. There are fewer aquaporins in the membrane, and your urine becomes less concentrated. This system lets you change the concentration of urine in a very flexible way. When you're very dehydrated, your kidneys can make urine that's 1,200 milliosmoles per kilogram, which is about 4 times more concentrated than your blood plasma. When they are too hydrated, they can make urine that is as dilute as 50 milliosmoles per kilogram, which lets them get rid of extra water quickly. There are also different types of cells in the collecting duct that help it do its different jobs. Intercalated cells are in charge of acid-base balance, while principal cells are in charge of reabsorbing water and sodium. The body can change the number and activity levels of these different cell types to meet its needs, which adds another level of control. This is why your urine is darker and thicker in the morning. While you slept, your kidneys worked all night to save water. This is because ADH levels naturally rise during sleep. They've been making very concentrated urine to keep your body from losing too much water while it heals and grows. It's like having a team of skilled technicians work on your body's water balance while you sleep. Now, instead of looking at these tiny wonders, let's look at the kidney as a whole organ with its own geography and landmarks. If you could cut a kidney in half lengthwise, like cutting an avocado, you would see different areas, each with its own shape and job, arranged in a way that shows how neatly the nephrons are arranged inside. The cortex, which is the outer layer, is where most of the nephrons' filtering structures are. It's a busy area with a lot of activity. The reddish-brown colour comes from the rich blood supply and the high metabolic activity of the cells inside. The cortex would be the downtown area of a city if nephrons were cities. There would be a lot of activity, infrastructure, and important business going on. The cortex has all of the glomeruli, the proximal and distal tubules, and the first parts of the collecting ducts. The medulla is deeper inside and is made up of pyramid-shaped structures that point toward the center of the kidney. Like organ pipes in a cathedral, the loops of Henle and the deeper parts of the collecting ducts are arranged in parallel inside these pyramids. The comparison isn't just poetic. The way these structures are arranged is almost musical. Each one is tuned to do its job in the greater harmony of how the kidneys work. The medulla is split into two parts, an outer medulla and an inner medulla. This is because nephrons with loops of different lengths can concentrate differently. The loops of nephrons that don't go very deep into the kidney tissue are in the outer medulla. The longest loops, which can make the most concentrated urine, are in the inner medulla. A papilla, which looks like a nipple, is at the top of each pyramid. It opens into a cup-like structure called a calyx. The papilla is where the last urine from thousands of collecting ducts comes together and enters the urinary collection system. The renal pelvis is a chamber that collects all the urine made by the kidney. It is where many calyces, the plural of calyx, drain into. The renal pelvis is not just a place where urine collects, it is also an active part of the urinary system. It has smooth muscle in its walls that can contract to help push urine toward the ureter. It also has stretch receptors that can tell when the amount of urine is rising. These receptors help time the flow of urine and are part of the reflexes that control urination. The blood flow to the kidneys is worth mentioning because it is so complicated and works so well. The renal artery, which usually comes straight from the aorta, the body's largest artery, brings blood into each kidney. This direct link to the aorta makes sure that the kidneys get blood at full systemic pressure, which is needed for good filtration. The renal artery starts to branch out into smaller and smaller vessels right away. First, it splits into segmental arteries and then into interlobar arteries that run between the pyramids of the medulla. These give rise to arcuate arteries that curve over the bases of the pyramids and then to interlobular arteries that go into the cortex. The afferent arterioles come from the interlobular arteries. Each one supplies a single glomerulus. The kidney has a special arrangement called a portal system, which is different from most organs, where blood flows through capillaries and then directly into veins. Blood doesn't go back to the venous system right away after it goes through the glomerular capillaries. Instead, it goes into efferent arterioles and then into another set of capillaries called peritubular capillaries. This portal setup lets you control filtration and reabsorption with amazing accuracy. You can change the pressure in the glomerular capillaries by making the afferent and efferent arterioles wider or narrower. You can also change the pressure in the peritubular capillaries to make sure that filtered substances are reabsorbed as well as possible. The peritubular capillaries make a complex network around the nephron tubules. They bring reabsorbed substances back into the blood and send nutrients and oxygen to the tubular cells that are working hard. These capillaries form special structures in the medulla called vasa recta. These are straight vessels that run parallel to the loops of Henle and are very important for keeping the concentration gradients that are needed for urine concentration. Some vessels in the vasa recta carry blood down into the medulla, while others carry it back up. This lets them keep the salt concentration gradients that the loops of Henle make without washing them away. It's like having a blood supply that doesn't mess up the delicate chemical gradients that make urine concentration possible while still giving the kidneys the nutrients they need. Juxtaglomerular cells are specialized structures in the kidney's blood vessels that act as pressure sensors and hormone factories. These cells are located where the afferent arteriole meets the glomerulus, which is the best place to keep an eye on blood flow and pressure. These cells let out an enzyme called renin when they sense low blood pressure, low blood flow, or low sodium levels. Renin starts a chain reaction called the renin-angiotensin-aldosterone system, which is one of the most important ways the body controls blood pressure. Renin works on a protein called angiotensinogen, turning it into angiotensin 1, an enzyme that is mostly found in the lungs, then turns angiotensin 1 into angiotensin 2. Angiotensin 2 is a strong vasoconstrictor that raises blood pressure directly. It also causes the release of aldosterone, which makes the body hold on to sodium and raises blood pressure even more. This system lets the kidneys act as hydraulic engineers for the whole cardiovascular system, always keeping an eye on and changing blood pressure and volume based on what the body needs. This is a great example of how sensors in one organ can work together to affect the whole body. The ureters are the beautiful tubes that connect each kidney to the bladder. As we follow the path of newly formed urine leaving the kidney, we see the ureters. Each ureter is about 25 centimeters long in adults and about the same size as a drinking straw. It is a work of biological plumbing that moves urine quickly and stops any backflow that could hurt the kidneys. The ureters aren't just tubes that passively carry water, like garden hoses. They're active muscular tubes that push urine toward the bladder through waves of contraction known as peristalsis. If you've ever seen a snake eat something, you've seen peristalsis in action. This is when muscles work together to push things in one direction, creating a wave-like motion that keeps things moving forward. There are 3 different layers in the walls of the ureters. The mucosa, which is the innermost layer, is made up of transitional epithelium, which are specialized cells that can stretch and contract as the amount of urine changes. The middle layer is made up of smooth muscle that is arranged in both circular and longitudinal patterns. This lets the muscles contract in a complicated way that is needed for peristalsis. The outer layer is made up of connective tissue that gives the structure strength and has blood vessels and nerves in it. When urine is being made normally, these peristaltic waves happen about every 20 seconds. They make a gentle rhythmic flow that keeps urine from backing up into the kidneys. The waves start in the renal pelvis and travel the whole length of the ureter. It takes about 10 seconds for them to get from the kidney to the bladder. This means that the urine your kidneys are making right now will get to your bladder in a few seconds, thanks to these muscle contractions. You can change how strong and how often peristaltic contractions happen, depending on how much urine there is and what it is made of. When the body makes a lot of urine, contractions happen more often and with more force to deal with the extra flow. When there are stones or other blockages in the ureter, it can make very strong contractions to try to move the blockage along. This is what causes the severe pain that comes with kidney stones. There is a complex one-way valve system at the point where each ureter enters the bladder. This system stops urine from flowing back toward the kidneys. The ureter goes through the wall of the bladder at an angle that makes a flap-like mechanism that closes when the pressure in the bladder rises. When the bladder contracts, the muscle fibers in the wall of the bladder squeeze the opening of the ureter. This adds a second layer of protection against reflux. This mechanism that stops reflux is very important for kidney health. If urine could flow backward from the bladder into the ureters and kidneys, it could carry bacteria and cause infections that could be very dangerous. The pressure changes that happen when reflux happens could also hurt the kidney's delicate filtering structures. The junction between the ureter and the bladder is a beautiful way to solve these possible problems. The bladder is one of the most underrated organs in your body. It's a work of mechanical engineering that looks like a simple storage sack. This hollow muscular organ sits in your pelvis like a balloon that has lost its air. It is waiting for its main job, which is to hold urine for a short time. It's technically correct to say that the bladder is just a storage container, but it's missing the complex engineering that goes into it. The bladder is in the pelvis, which protects it and makes it work. It's behind the pubic bone, which protects it from outside damage. Its location also lets it grow up into the abdomen as it fills, using space that is already there without getting in the way of other organs. The bladder is located in front of the uterus and vagina in women, and on top of the prostate gland in men. The bladder wall has many layers, and each one helps it work in amazing ways. The urothelium, which is the innermost layer, is probably the most specialized. This isn't just any old lining, it's a special kind of tissue that you can't find anywhere else in the body. It was made to be impermeable to urine, while still allowing for big changes in surface area. The urothelium is made up of many layers of cells, and the top layer is the most interesting. These umbrella cells, which are on the surface, are some of the biggest cells in the human body. They have special membranes that are almost waterproof. This impermeability is very important because urine has concentrated wastes and acids that could hurt other tissues if they were able to get through the bladder wall. The urothelium is even more amazing because it can change size to fit the bladder's changing volume. When the bladder is empty, the umbrella cells look like domes and the surface looks very folded. The cells flatten out and the folds go away as the bladder fills up and stretches. This makes the surface area much bigger without breaking the waterproof seal. The detrusor muscle is the bladder's muscular layer that is below the urothelium. This isn't just one muscle. It's a complicated arrangement of smooth muscle bundles that are oriented in different ways, like some that are circular, some that are longitudinal, and some that are oblique. This arrangement in many directions lets the bladder contract evenly, which makes sure that it is completely empty when you pee. The detrusor muscle has amazing properties that make the bladder work well as a storage space. The muscle stays relaxed as the bladder fills up, which lets the organ grow without much of an increase in internal pressure. For the health and comfort of the kidneys, it is very important that they can handle more and more volume without building up pressure. If the bladder couldn't expand properly, pressure would build up in the ureters and kidneys, which could hurt those fragile filtering structures. The bladder can comfortably hold 400 to 600 milliliters of urine, which is about the size of a large coffee mug. However, some people can hold more than 1,000 milliliters. Your bladder is about the size of a plum when it's empty, and its walls are thick and folded. As it fills up, the folds flatten out, and the whole organ can grow to fit the extra volume while still keeping its shape. But this growth does have limits. When the bladder gets to about 150 to 200 milliliters of capacity, stretch receptors in the bladder wall start sending signals to your brain. This is when you first start to feel like you need to urinate. As the bladder fills up, these signals get stronger and stronger, making sure you have plenty of time to prepare before it reaches its maximum comfortable capacity. The nervous system controls the bladder in both involuntary and voluntary ways, making it possible for both automatic and conscious control. The parasympathetic nervous system controls the detrusor muscle most of the time. When it's time to urinate, it makes the muscle contract. The sympathetic nervous system does the opposite, making the detrusor relax during the filling phase. But the detrusor muscle contracting isn't the only thing that makes you pee. There are two sphincters that control the release of urine, an internal sphincter that works on its own, and an external sphincter that you can control on purpose. The internal sphincter is smooth muscle and is part of the bladder neck. The external sphincter is skeletal muscle and is part of the pelvic floor, a complicated neural circuit that includes the brainstem, spinal cord, and higher brain centers controls how these different parts work together. This circuit keeps the detrusor muscle relaxed and both sphincters contracted while your bladder is filling. When it's time to pee, the circuit changes these patterns so that the detrusor contracts and both sphincters relax. The urethra is the last part of our urinary system. It is the tube that carries urine from the bladder to the outside world. The urethra, like the other parts of the urinary system, is more complex than it seems at first. Men and women have different characteristics that reflect their different anatomical needs. The urethra in women is only about 4 centimeters long and opens just above the vaginal opening. Its shortness is both a good and a bad thing. On the one hand, it makes it easy to empty the bladder quickly. On the other hand, it gives bacteria a shorter path to get to the bladder, which is why women are more likely to get urinary tract infections. The urethra in men is much longer, about 18 to 20 centimeters, and it works as both a urinary passage and a part of the reproductive system. It goes through the prostate gland, where it gets secretions that become part of semen, and then it goes through the penis to its opening on the outside. The urethra has mucus-secreting cells that help protect against infection and make it easier for urine to flow through. This is true for both men and women. The mucus has substances in it that kill bacteria, making it hard for pathogens to grow. We often take for granted how well our nervous system works together when we urinate. When you decide it's time to pee, your brain starts a complicated series of events that must be perfectly timed for the bladder to empty properly. The first step is to relax the external urethral sphincter, which is the muscle you can control. The internal sphincter relaxes and the detrusor muscle contracts almost right away after this. But this isn't as simple as just opening a valve and letting gravity do the work. The whole process is carefully planned to make sure the bladder is completely empty and that there is no backflow or leakage. The bladder neck narrows as the detrusor contracts, which makes an efficient flow pattern that helps guide urine into the urethra. The abdominal muscles may also tighten a little to add more pressure, especially when the bladder is very full or in older people whose detrusor strength may have gone down. The movement of urine through the urethra creates its own set of rules. The longer urethra in men allows for a more laminar flow pattern to form, while the shorter urethra in women causes a more turbulent flow. These differences change everything, from how urination sounds to how likely it is to get bacteria in it. When you start to urinate, it usually keeps going until the bladder is empty. This is because of reflexes that keep the detrusor muscle contracting and the sphincter muscle relaxing. It usually takes 30 to 60 seconds for the bladder to empty completely. But this depends on the size of the bladder and the person's body. It's amazing how easily urination happens when you think about how complicated it is. The spinal cord controls the basic reflexes, the brainstem controls the timing, and the higher brain centers give conscious control and social awareness. This multi-level control system lets you urinate in a lot of different ways. You can hold off on urinating when it's appropriate, start when it's convenient, and even stop in the middle of the stream if you need to. This conscious override of basic biological functions is one of the advanced adaptations that lets people live and work in complicated social settings. Now let's talk about some of the kidney's less well-known but just as important jobs. Most people think of their kidneys as filters that make urine, but they are actually endocrine organs that make hormones that affect many processes in your body in ways you might not expect. Erythropoietin, or EPO, is one of the most important hormones your kidneys make. This amazing molecule is in charge of making blood cells and sensing oxygen in your body. When your kidneys sense that the oxygen levels in your blood are low, which could be because you are at a high altitude, have anemia, or are losing blood, they send out special cells called peritubular fibroblasts to make EPO. The EPO then moves through your blood to your bone marrow, where it works like a factory manager to make more red blood cells. More red blood cells mean better oxygen transport, which helps make up for whatever caused the lack of oxygen in the first place. Your kidneys are like delivery trucks that keep an eye on the oxygen levels in your body and place orders for more trucks when they need to. This system is so sensitive that it can pick up on even the smallest changes in how much oxygen is available. When mountain climbers reach high altitudes, their bodies start making more EPO within hours. This leads to more red blood cells being made over the next days and weeks. This natural process of acclimatization helps people get used to places where there isn't much oxygen. Finding EPO has had a big impact on medicine. People with kidney disease, cancer, and other conditions are now using synthetic EPO to treat anemia. Some athletes have also abused it as a performance-enhancing drug because more red blood cells can help them last longer. This misuse shows how strong the kidney's natural EPO production really is. Your kidneys also make calcitriol, the active form of vitamin D, which is important for calcium metabolism and bone health. Your body can't use vitamin D right away when you get it from the sun or food. Vitamin D that your skin makes or that you eat is basically a pro-hormone, which means it needs to be processed before it can work. There are 2 steps to this processing. Vitamin D first goes to your liver, where it is changed into 25-hydroxyvitamin D, which is also known as calcidiol. Doctors usually check your vitamin D levels by looking at this form in your blood, but calcidiol isn't the last form yet. It has to go to your kidneys to be changed into the last form. In the kidneys, special enzymes in the proximal tubule cells change calcidiol into calcitriol, which is the most powerful form of vitamin D. Calcitriol is a hormone, not a vitamin in the usual sense. It has big effects on your whole body. Its main job is to help the intestines absorb more calcium, but it also has an effect on how bones form, how the immune system works, and how cells change in many tissues. People with kidney disease often have bone problems because of this link between the kidneys and bone health. When the kidneys can't change vitamin D into its active form, calcium absorption goes down. This makes bones weaker and makes them more likely to break. The parathyroid glands make more parathyroid hormone in response, which takes calcium from bones to keep blood calcium levels stable. This makes the skeleton even weaker. The kidney's role in breaking down vitamin D also helps explain why a lack of vitamin D can have such a wide range of effects. Kidney disease can cause functional vitamin D deficiency even when vitamin D intake and sunlight exposure are enough. This is because the kidneys are the last step in activating vitamin D. The kidneys also help keep blood sugar levels stable in ways other than just filtering glucose out of the blood. Your kidneys can make glucose through a process called gluconeogenesis when you are fasting, exercising for a long time, or sick. Most of the time, the proximal tubule cells make this glucose, which can help keep blood sugar levels stable when food sources aren't available. The kidney's ability to make glucose is especially important when you fast overnight. Your liver is the main source of glucose for your brain and other organs while you sleep. Your kidneys, on the other hand, provide important backup support, making up about 20 to 25% of total glucose production during long periods of fasting. This process of renal gluconeogenesis uses different substrates like amino acids, lactate, and glycerol, and turns them into glucose through complicated metabolic pathways. Hormones like cortisol and insulin control the process, making sure that the kidneys make glucose in a way that meets the body's overall metabolic needs. People with diabetes may have problems with their kidneys' ability to make glucose, which can raise blood sugar levels. Some newer diabetes drugs work by stopping the kidneys from making glucose, which lowers blood sugar because it stops this extra source of glucose. Another interesting thing about how kidneys work is that they help break down and get rid of drugs. The kidneys process and get rid of a lot of medicines, which is why doctors often change the doses for people with kidney disease. Your kidneys are like a very smart customs office for things that come from outside the body. They decide what to keep, what to change, and what to send out of the body. There are a number of ways that the body gets rid of drugs. Some drugs are just filtered at the glomerulus and then come out in the urine unchanged. The proximal tubule cells actively secrete some substances. These cells have special transport systems that can find and get rid of different drugs and toxins. Some are broken down by enzymes in the kidneys before they are removed. This ability to process drugs also applies to natural substances. Your kidneys help get rid of both the alcohol itself and the harmful byproducts of alcohol metabolism when you drink. One reason alcohol makes you urinate more is that it lowers the production of ADH, which makes the collecting ducts absorb less water. Your kidneys control how much of the vitamins you take in and how much you pee out when you take too many vitamins, especially water-soluble ones like vitamin C and the B complex vitamins. This is why taking a lot of water-soluble vitamins often just makes your urine more expensive instead of making you healthier. Your kidneys get rid of the extra vitamins very well. The kidneys also help your body deal with stress and inflammation. They help keep cortisol, the main stress hormone, at the right level, and they are part of the complicated feedback loops that control how your body responds to stress. Chronic stress can harm the kidneys, and kidney disease can change how the body processes stress hormones. This could create feedback loops between mental and physical health. When there is inflammation in the body, the kidneys change how they work to help the body deal with higher metabolic needs. They may change how they deal with different electrolytes and proteins, and they can change how they make different hormones and signaling molecules. This adaptive response helps the immune system and keeps important body functions going. Let's think about what happens to this amazing system as we get older. Like other organs, kidneys change over time, but they are very strong and usually work well into old age. We can better understand how strong the kidneys are and how important it is to keep them healthy throughout life by learning about these changes that happen with age. As we get older, the number of working nephrons slowly goes down, usually by about 1% per year after age 40. This may sound scary, but keep in mind that you start with about 2 million nephrons. So even if you lose 1% of them every year, you will still have plenty of kidney function for many decades. The other nephrons can make up for it by filtering more blood and working more efficiently. As people get older, blood flow to the kidneys slows down, and the rate of filtration may also slow down. After age 30, the glomerular filtration rate, which is the standard way to measure how well the kidneys work, usually drops by about 1 milliliter per minute per year. But this decline usually happens so slowly that it doesn't bother healthy people. The kidneys have a lot of extra capacity, which means they can lose a lot of function before you notice any problems. Many people who donate kidneys show that you can live normally with just one kidney. This extra capacity is why kidney disease often goes undetected until it is very advanced. The healthy tissue can make up for the damaged areas until the kidney's overall capacity is severely compromised. Changes that come with age also affect the bladder and urinary tract. As you get older, the bladder wall may lose some of its elasticity, which makes it less able to hold urine and makes it more sensitive to smaller amounts of urine. The muscles that control urination may get weaker, which could make you have to go to the bathroom more often, especially at night. As men get older, their prostate gland often gets bigger, which can affect how well they urinate. But these changes are not always going to happen and can't be stopped. To keep your urinary system working well throughout your life, you should exercise regularly, drink enough water, and follow good health habits. Exercise keeps the pelvic floor and bladder muscles toned, and drinking enough water makes sure the kidneys work well without getting too tired. As we get older, our diet is also very important for keeping our kidneys healthy. Too much protein can put extra strain on the kidneys, and too much salt can raise blood pressure, which is one of the main causes of kidney damage. On the other hand, a balanced diet full of fruits and vegetables gives you antioxidants and other substances that may help keep your kidneys working well. Take a moment to think about how complicated the chemicals are that your kidneys work with every day. Urine isn't just water with waste products in it. It's a carefully balanced solution that shows what your body needs right now, what it's been through recently, and how healthy it is overall. The levels of different substances in your urine can tell you a lot about what's going on inside your body. The types and amounts of electrolytes in your body show how hydrated you are, what you eat, and how well your kidneys work. High glucose levels can mean you have diabetes, or that you've eaten a lot of carbs recently. Protein levels could mean that the kidneys are damaged, or that you just worked out hard. If you have a lot of ketones in your body, it could mean that you've been on a low-carb diet, haven't eaten in a while, or are having diabetic ketoacidosis. Higher levels of some hormones or their breakdown products can tell us how well the endocrine system is working. The presence of different drugs or their breakdown products indicates recent medication use or exposure to toxins. The physical properties of urine also yield significant information. Changes in color can show how hydrated you are, if you have blood in your urine, or if you've eaten certain foods or taken certain medicines. Clarity can mean an infection or something else that isn't normal. Changes in smell could be a sign of metabolic disorders, infections, or diet. The specific gravity of urine, or how dense it is compared to water, shows how concentrated it is. This, in turn, shows how well the kidneys are working and how well hydrated the person is. The normal range for urine-specific gravity is between 1.003, very dilute, and 1.030, very concentrated, with most samples falling between 1.010 and 1.025. The pH of urine changes during the day and in response to different things. It usually ranges from 4.6 to 8.0, but it's usually a little acidic. Urine in the morning is usually more acidic, but urine after a meal is usually more alkaline because the kidneys work to get rid of the acid that was made during digestion. The pH of your urine is greatly affected by what you eat. For example, vegetarian diets tend to make urine more alkaline, while high-protein diets tend to make urine more acidic. The amount of urine you make also changes depending on a number of things and can tell you about your kidneys and your overall health. Healthy adults usually make between 1.5 and 2 litres of urine every day. However, when you're very dehydrated, you might only make 400 millilitres. And when you're very hydrated or taking certain medications, you might make more than 3 litres. Your kidneys always change how much urine they make based on how much fluid you drink, how active you are, the weather, and how healthy you are overall. When it's hot or you're working out, your body usually makes less urine because it needs to keep water for cooling down through sweating. When it's cold outside, your body may need less water, which could make you pee more. There are also patterns in when urine is made. During sleep, ADH levels naturally rise, which is why most people urinate less at night. This daily cycle of urine production is what lets most people sleep through the night without having to go to the bathroom. This rhythm can be messed up by getting older, getting sick, or taking medicine, which can make you wake up at night to pee. Young adults have the best ability to concentrate urine in their kidneys, but this ability may get worse as they get older. Maximum urine concentration ability is a common way to test how well the kidneys are working, because it shows how well the complex countercurrent multiplication system in the loops of Henle is working. Let's look more closely at how incredibly accurate all of these processes are. Your kidneys make about 120 millilitres of filtrate every minute of every day. That's about half a cup every minute, or about 180 litres every day. In other words, that's like filtering your whole blood volume 60 times a day. But only 1 to 2 litres of this huge amount of initial filtrate turn into urine. That means that your kidneys take back and reuse more than 99% of what they filter out. This level of efficiency would be impressive in any situation, but it's even more impressive when you think about how selective it is. The kidneys don't just reabsorb everything equally, they carefully choose what to keep and what to get rid of based on what your body needs at the time. This selectivity applies to hundreds of different substances, each of which is handled in a way that meets its own needs. Under normal conditions, almost all of the glucose is reabsorbed. When you need to keep salt, sodium reabsorption is about 99%. When you need to get rid of extra salt, it is about 95%. When you're dehydrated, your body can reabsorb about 99.5% of the water it loses. When you're overhydrated, it can reabsorb about 97%. The amount of coordination needed for all of this is mind-boggling. Millions of nephrons working together, each one doing dozens of chemical reactions at the same time and reacting to changes in pressure, hormone levels, and the amounts of hundreds of different substances. It's like a city where everyone knows exactly what to do and when to do it, but there is no central command structure giving them detailed orders. There are many levels at which the feedback systems that control kidney function work. Each nephron's local feedback changes how much it filters and reabsorbs based on the situation at the time. Regional feedback systems make sure that groups of nephrons work together. Hormones and neural signals that change how the kidneys work based on the needs of the whole body are part of systemic feedback. These feedback systems can even predict what needs will be in the future based on what is happening now. The renin-angiotensin system starts to work when your blood pressure drops, even before it gets very low. Before dehydration gets bad, your ADH levels start to rise if you start to get dehydrated. This ability to anticipate has been honed over millions of years of evolution. Each minor enhancement that facilitated survival and reproduction was retained, whereas less advantageous variations were eliminated. The outcome is a biological system of nearly unfathomable complexity, functioning with a precision that surpasses our most advanced technologies. Think about the molecular machinery that goes into even one transport process in the proximal tubule. The sodium-glucose cotransporter, which takes glucose back from the filtrate, is a protein structure made up of more than 600 amino acids that are folded into a complex three-dimensional shape that makes specific binding sites for sodium and glucose. When sodium binds to its site, it changes shape, which opens the glucose binding site. When glucose binds, the shape of the molecule changes again, allowing both molecules to cross the cell membrane. There are millions of these cells in each kidney, and each one has hundreds of these transport systems working at the same time. The level of coordination and accuracy needed is mind-boggling, but it all happens automatically without you having to think about it. The kidneys need a lot of energy to work properly. Your kidneys only make up about 0.5% of your body weight, but they use up about 7 to 10% of your total energy. This high energy demand shows how much work goes into active transport processes, keeping concentration gradients stable and running the molecular machinery that filters and reabsorbs. A lot of this energy is used to run the sodium-potassium pumps, which keep the electrochemical gradients needed for secondary transport processes. These pumps, which are in the membranes of almost all kidney cells, use ATP to move sodium out of cells and potassium into cells against their concentration gradients. This is what makes the sodium-potassium pump work, which is a very important part of how the kidneys work. The kidneys need a lot of energy, which is another reason why they are so sensitive to things that slow down blood flow or oxygen delivery. The kidneys need a constant, adequate flow of blood to keep their complex functions going. Unlike some tissues that can work without oxygen for a short time, even short periods of very low blood flow can hurt the delicate filtering structures for a long time. This weakness has caused the development of many ways to protect against it. The body's ability to control blood flow helps keep perfusion pressure steady, even when systemic blood pressure changes. When local autoregulation isn't enough, the renin-angiotensin system helps keep blood pressure stable. There are many antioxidant systems that help protect against damage from reactive oxygen species that are made during normal metabolism. The kidneys are also very good at healing themselves, especially the tubular parts of the nephrons. Glomeruli don't heal very well after they've been hurt, but tubular cells can replace themselves very well as long as the structure underneath stays the same. This is why acute kidney injury from toxins or a short-term drop in blood flow usually heals completely. But chronic diseases that damage the glomeruli usually cause permanent loss of function. As we think about the evening hours and how the kidneys work at night, it's interesting to think about how these organs change how they work when we sleep. Your kidneys work all day long to process what you eat, keep your electrolytes in balance, and get rid of metabolic wastes made by active tissues. But as night falls and you get ready for bed, your kidneys start to work in different ways. ADH levels start to rise even before you fall asleep. This is the start of the process of concentrating urine to save water during the overnight fast. Aldosterone levels may also change to help the body handle sodium better in the coming hours. Your biological clock, the suprachiasmatic nucleus in your brain, controls the circadian rhythm that controls these changes. It responds to cycles of light and dark. This internal clock sends signals to different parts of your body, including your kidneys, to help keep track of when different physiological processes should happen. Your kidneys keep doing their important jobs while you sleep, but they change the order in which they do them. You won't be drinking during the night, so it's even more important to save water. The processing of daytime food continues, getting rid of extra nutrients and keeping the ones that are needed. During deep sleep, growth hormone may be released, which could affect how the kidneys work and help repair and renew tissue. Your kidneys also help with the healing that happens while you sleep. They help get rid of metabolic waste products that build up in tissues during the day, and they help keep the body's internal environment stable so that cells can repair and grow. The concentrated urine you make overnight is the result of hours of careful conservation work, which helps your body stay hydrated even though you haven't eaten anything. Your sleeping position can even have a small effect on how well your kidneys work. When you lie down, your blood pressure and distribution change. The kidney's pressure receptors pick up on these changes and make small adjustments to how they work. Most of the time, these changes are so small that you wouldn't notice them, but they show how the kidneys always respond to changes in their environment. The kidneys also play a role in regulating body temperature while you sleep. When you sleep, your core body temperature drops, which changes how blood flows through your body. The kidneys change how they work to deal with these changes, keeping their important processes going even though the blood flow has changed. The kidneys work at night, which is why urine in the morning is usually darker and more concentrated than urine during the day. It is the result of overnight conservation efforts, with the most water being reabsorbed and waste being concentrated. The first time you pee in the morning literally flushes away the waste products that built up while you were sleeping, getting your body ready for another day of activity. This daily pattern of kidney function has stayed the same throughout human evolution. It shows how important it is to save water when you can't drink it. Our ancestors, who could concentrate their urine the best at night, had an edge in survival, especially in places where water was hard to find. These natural rhythms can be thrown off by modern life. People who work shifts, travel a lot across time zones, or have irregular sleep schedules may notice changes in how their kidneys work. The kidneys slowly get used to new schedules, but this can cause urine concentration and electrolyte handling to change for a short time. As we get close to the end of our gentle journey through the urinary system, it's important to think about how deeply connected kidney function is to almost every other system in your body. The kidneys don't work alone. They are an important part of the complicated network of bodily functions that keep us alive. Their connection to the cardiovascular system goes beyond just filtering blood. The kidneys help control how much blood is in the body, how high blood pressure is, and how many red blood cells are made. They respond to how well the heart is working and change how they work when the heart's output changes. On the other hand, kidney function has a direct effect on heart health by controlling blood pressure and fluid balance. The link to the endocrine system is just as strong. The kidneys make hormones and respond to hormonal signals from other parts of the body. Insulin, thyroid hormones, growth hormone, parathyroid hormone, and many other signaling molecules affect them. Their hormones affect the health of bones, the formation of blood cells, blood pressure, and the metabolism of calcium. The nervous system has a lot of connections to the kidneys. Stress or other stimuli can change the flow of blood and the rate at which it is filtered by sympathetic nerves. The kidneys send information about blood pressure, volume, and chemical makeup back to the brain. Pain signals from kidney stones or infections travel along certain nerve pathways to make the unique feelings that come with kidney problems. The relationship with the respiratory system includes keeping the acid-base balance in check. The lungs and kidneys work together to keep the pH of the blood at the right level. The lungs do this by changing the rate of breathing to deal with sudden changes. And the kidneys do this by changing the composition of urine to deal with longer-term acid-base balance. Interactions in the digestive system include breaking down nutrients from food, getting rid of metabolic waste from digestion, and responding to changes in salt, protein, and fluid intake. The kidneys change how they work based on when and what you eat, showing how flexible they are when it comes to changes in diet. The immune system even works closely with the kidneys. Autoimmune diseases can attack the kidneys, and kidney disease can make the immune system work less well. The kidneys help get rid of inflammatory mediators and can change how they work when there is inflammation or infection in the body. Because of this connection, kidney health affects overall health in ways that go beyond just making urine. On the other hand, issues with other organ systems can often affect how well the kidneys work. This is why taking care of your heart, blood pressure, blood sugar, and general health is important for keeping your kidneys healthy. The kidneys are one of evolution's greatest achievements. They keep you alive and help you thrive in a world that is always changing. They change based on what you eat, how active you are, how healthy you are, and where you live, all while keeping the exact conditions inside your cells that they need to work best. Perhaps their most amazing trait is that they can keep homeostasis, which is the stable internal environment that is necessary for life. Your kidneys work all the time to keep your blood chemistry within the narrow ranges that are best for your cells, even though you eat, drink, and do a lot of different things. This ability to maintain homeostasis gives you a lot of freedom in your life while keeping your body stable. You can eat a lot or a little, work out hard or relax quietly, and go to different climates and altitudes, and your kidneys will still be able to keep your cells in the exact balance they need. Your kidneys are already getting ready for bed tonight. They're changing how they work so they can handle the quiet hours ahead. While you sleep and recover, they'll keep your body's chemical balance, concentrate your urine to save water, and keep processing the food you ate that day. When you wake up in the morning feeling good and ready for the day, you can thank your kidneys for a lot of that. They will have worked all night, quietly and efficiently, getting your body ready for whatever challenges and chances the new day may bring. The amazing thing about how kidneys work is that they do this exact complicated work all the time, even when you're not thinking about it. These amazing organs keep an eye on your internal environment while you sleep, dream, work, play, and live your life. They don't ask anything of you except that you take good care of your body by drinking enough water, eating a balanced diet, getting regular exercise, and staying away from too many toxins. In exchange for this simple care, they give you decades of dependable service, filtering your blood, balancing your chemistry, making important hormones, and helping to keep the internal environment that makes life, thought, emotion, and consciousness possible. They are the best examples of what makes biological systems so amazing. They are incredibly complex and sophisticated, and they work much more reliably than any system designed by humans. It's very comforting to know that these amazing organs are working for you right now as you fall asleep. They show how biological systems work quietly and efficiently, and how millions of years of evolution have come up with elegant ways to keep life going in a world that is always changing. So as you fall asleep tonight, you might think about how much you appreciate these quiet workers, these bean-shaped wonders that show how complex and beautiful human biology is. Your kidneys and urinary system are proof of how evolution can come up with very complex solutions when it has enough time. They are just two examples of the amazing things that exist in the universe, from distant galaxies to quantum particles. Tomorrow will bring new challenges and chances, new foods to deal with, new activities to help with, and new weather to get used to. Your kidneys will be able to handle these problems just like they have every day since you were born, with the same quiet skill and amazing accuracy that makes human life possible. Sleep well, knowing that your body's systems will keep working hard while you sleep to keep you healthy and whole. Sweet dreams. May your new appreciation for these amazing organs bring you peace and wonder as you close your eyes and let sleep carry you into tomorrow, with the quiet miracle of your functioning kidneys supporting you. Tonight, guys, we're going to learn about the nervous system, but not in the crazy electric way you might think. Instead, we'll learn how this amazing network of cells and pathways makes the most peaceful times in your life. We'll walk together through the quiet hallways of your brain as it gets ready for sleep. We'll meet the soft chemical messengers that guide you to sleep and learn how your body's most complicated system becomes your most trusted friend in sleep. Instead of seeing your nervous system as a buzzing electrical grid, picture it as a huge old library that is closing. The day's busy readers have left. The harsh fluorescent lights have dimmed to warm amber, and now the sacred ritual of organizing, filing away, and getting ready for tomorrow's discoveries begins. Tonight we'll look at the nervous system that gently guides you into sleep, not the one that wakes you up with morning alarms. Let's start our journey in the place we know best, your brain, which is a 3-pound universe that lives safely inside your skull. But tonight, we won't think of it as your body's command center barking orders. Instead, think of it as an old, wise conductor getting an orchestra ready for its last and most beautiful movement of the day. Your neurons are like musicians getting ready to play the most relaxing symphony ever written, the music of sleep. You see, your brain isn't just one organ, it's made up of different neighborhoods, each with its own personality and job. As night falls, these neighborhoods slowly change from the busy activity of day to the calm rhythms of night. The cerebral cortex, the wrinkled outer layer of your brain where your conscious thoughts dance when you're awake, starts to calm down. The millions of neurons that spent the day processing information, making decisions, and making memories now start to slow down, like streetlights going out one by one across a city at midnight. This change doesn't happen all at once like flipping a switch. Instead, it happens slowly, like a sunset, with colors changing from bright gold to soft amber to deep purple without anyone noticing. Your cortex has different parts that need to wind down at different times this evening. The visual cortex, which worked hard all day to make sense of the stream of images coming in through your eyes, starts to let go of the outside world first. The auditory regions, which processed every sound from birds singing in the morning to people talking at night, begin to ignore the less important sounds of everyday life. But this quieting isn't random or out of control. It follows patterns that are written into your DNA and have been guiding human sleep for hundreds of thousands of years. The suprachiasmatic nucleus is a small group of cells deep in your brain that acts as your body's master clock. Imagine a patient old lighthouse keeper looking out over the water for signs of darkness, ready to start the evening's gentle ritual of guiding ships safely to port. This amazing timepiece, which is only as big as a grain of rice, has about 20,000 neurons that pulse in time with the rotation of the Earth. These cells get messages from your eyes about how bright the world is during the day. But when night falls, they start to put together the most complicated biological symphony you'll ever hear. The change from being awake to being asleep. The suprachiasmatic nucleus doesn't do this by itself. It works with other timing centers in your body to make what scientists call a hierarchy of biological clocks. Every organ, tissue, and even single cell has its own rhythm. Your liver has its own clock that helps it break down nutrients. Your muscles have clocks that tell them when to grow and fix themselves. Your immune system has clocks that tell it when to be most careful about getting sick. All of these peripheral timekeepers look to your suprachiasmatic nucleus as their conductor, following its lead as it responds to the daily cycle of light and darkness. The first movement of this symphony starts with the slow lowering of a hormone you might not expect, cortisol. Cortisol is a gentle motivator during the day that helps you stay alert and focused. It naturally rises in the morning, giving you the energy you need to face the day's challenges. It also naturally ebbs and flows depending on how stressed or active you are. But when your master clock knows that night is coming, it tells your adrenal glands to make less cortisol. Imagine the conductor's baton slowly lowering, telling the brass section to stop playing. This suppression of cortisol is very important because cortisol and sleep are very closely linked. Having too much cortisol in your blood will keep you awake and anxious, with your mind racing with thoughts and your body tense and ready to act. When cortisol levels drop in the evening, your nervous system gets one of its first signals that it's time to switch from the active mode of day to the restorative mode of night. A small, pinecone-shaped gland in the center of your brain, called the pineal, starts its nightly routine at the same time. The pineal gland is one of the most beautiful parts of the human body. Philosophers used to call it the seat of the soul, but we now know it as the source of something just as magical, melatonin. The pineal gland is located between the two hemispheres of your brain. It is connected to your visual system through a complicated pathway that lets it detect changes in light, even though it is deep inside your skull. When it gets dark, this tiny gland starts to release melatonin into your bloodstream, like a soft mist spreading over a calm lake at dusk. Melatonin levels stay low during the day and start to rise as evening approaches. This is a pattern that happens every time. The most production happens in the middle of the night, usually between 2 and 4 a.m. After that, it slowly goes down until dawn. A lot of people think that melatonin is a sleeping pill that your body makes, but it's not. It's more like a soft whisper, a chemical lullaby that travels through your blood to receptors all over your nervous system. When melatonin touches these receptors, they start to change how your brain works from the bright, sharp focus of the day to the soft, flowing rhythms of sleep. Melatonin doesn't make you sleep. It just opens the door and gently asks you to come in. There aren't equal amounts of melatonin receptors in your brain. They group together in places that are important for controlling sleep, especially in the suprachiasmatic nucleus itself. This creates a feedback loop in which melatonin affects the master clock that starts melatonin production. This helps to stabilize and strengthen your circadian rhythms. It's like a grandfather clock that not only tells time, but also listens to its own ticking to make sure it stays in perfect time. But getting ready for sleep isn't just about turning off systems that are active during the day. It also needs to gently wake up sleep-promoting pathways that have been patiently waiting their turn. Clusters of neurons in a part of the brain called the ventrolateral preoptic area, which we'll call the sleep center, start to release a chemical called GABA. Melatonin is a soft whisper at night, while GABA is a warm hug. Gamma-aminobutyric acid, or GABA, is the main neurotransmitter that stops your nervous system from working. In other words, it's the chemical that tells other neurons to slow down, talk more quietly, and get into a calmer rhythm. Think of GABA as a kind librarian who walks through the stacks at closing time and puts a finger to her lips to tell everyone to be quiet. Your sleep center's neurons don't just release GABA at random times. They make a complex network that can feel how your brain and body are doing and react to signals about your stress levels, fatigue, circadian time, and even your mood. When these neurons that help you sleep sense that it's time to rest, they start to work harder and send out waves of GABA that spread through your nervous system like ripples on a pond. As GABA spreads its calming effect through your brain, something wonderful starts to happen in your cerebral cortex. The beta waves that made your mind alert and thinking start to slow down and change into alpha waves. The brain's alpha waves are like a deep, satisfied sigh. They stand for that calm time between waking up and going to sleep, when your mind is still aware, but not actively trying to think or solve problems. This change from beta to alpha waves is a big change in how your brain processes information. When beta waves are in charge, your neurons fire in patterns that are mostly independent and happen at a high frequency. This helps with focused attention, analytical thinking, and active problem solving. But when alpha waves start to appear, your neurons start to work together, firing in longer, slower rhythms that help you relax and think about yourself. When your brain switches to alpha waves, the activity in its network also changes. When you are awake and alert, your brain keeps what neuroscientists call task-positive networks. These are groups of brain areas that work together to focus your attention on the outside world and help you reach your goals. But as alpha waves get stronger, these task-positive networks start to quiet down, and other networks become more important. The default mode network is one of the most important networks that comes to life when you relax. When your mind isn't focused on anything in particular, like when you're mentally wandering, this network becomes active. The default mode network is linked to self-reflection, memory consolidation, and the kind of loose associative thinking that often happens before you go to sleep. This change isn't sudden, like flipping a switch. It's more like how daylight slowly fades into twilight. Your neurons, which may have been firing 30 or 40 times a second when you were really focused, are now firing at a slower pace. They start to sync up with each other, making waves of electrical activity that move across your brain like gentle swells on a calm ocean. As this synchronization gets stronger, your brain waves slow down even more, going into theta rhythms. Theta waves, which happen 4 to 8 times a second, are linked to the sleepy state just before sleep, when the edges of reality start to blur and the first wisps of dreams start to form. Your thoughts become less straight and more connected. The logical connections that guided your thoughts throughout the day yield to the more fluid and imaginative connections that will soon blossom into dreams. Theta waves are interesting because they show a state of consciousness that is not fully awake or fully asleep. When you're in this theta state, Your mind is more open to making strange connections and getting creative ideas. A lot of artists and inventors say that their best ideas come to them when they are sleepy and in a theta state, either right before they go to bed or right after they wake up. Your logical and critical thinking systems have let their guard down, letting more fun and creative neural processes come to the surface. Your thalamus, which is an egg-shaped structure deep in your brain that acts as a relay station for sensory information, starts to change in one of the most amazing ways in all of neuroscience during this time. Your thalamus has been busy all day taking in information from your senses and deciding which ones you should pay attention to. Like a skilled air traffic controller, it has been able to handle the constant flow of sights, sounds, smells, and feelings that want your attention. Not only does the thalamus pass on sensory information, but it also actively sorts and prioritizes it based on what you need and what you're paying attention to right now. Your thalamus helps you focus on your friend's voice and block out the noise around you when you're talking in a busy restaurant. It makes visual signals that could be key-like objects more clear while making other visual input less clear when you're looking for your keys. One of the most important things that consciousness does is this selective attention process. But when it's time to sleep, your thalamus starts to close the gates. It begins to block out more and more sensory information from the outside world. Sleep researchers call this sensory gating. For example, the sounds of traffic outside your window become background noise. You stop being aware of how the sheets feel against your skin. You won't notice the small changes in the temperature of the room that happen during the day. The thalamus isn't shutting down. It's just switching from connecting you to the outside world to keeping you from being disturbed while you sleep. Your nervous system does this sensory gating for you, and it's one of the most caring things it does. It knows that sleep isn't just the lack of wakefulness, it's a different state of mind that needs its own special environment. Your thalamus is like a loyal guardian that stands watch at the gates of awareness and makes sure that only the most important signals, like a crying child, a smoke alarm, or the touch of a loved one, can get through to your peaceful sleep. The thalamus does this by changing the electrical properties of its neurons, which lets some signals through and blocks others. Thalamic neurons fire in a steady, rhythmic pattern called tonic firing when you are awake. This lets them send sensory information to the cortex accurately. But when sleep is near, these neurons change to a firing pattern called burst firing, in which they go from being very active to being very quiet. This burst firing pattern works like a filter that keeps most sensory information from getting to your cortex, but lets through signals that are very important or strong. It's like having a high-tech security system that can tell the difference between a leaf falling on the roof and someone trying to break in. When you first fall asleep, the thalamus is very picky about what information it thinks is worth your time. As your brain gets deeper into this safe state, other parts of it start to get ready for sleep in their own special ways. Your brainstem, which is the oldest part of your nervous system and controls basic life functions like breathing and heart rate, starts to coordinate the physical changes that happen when you fall asleep. Neurons in the brainstem release chemicals that start to calm your muscles, slow your breathing, and lower your heart rate. The locus coeruleus is a part of the brainstem that is very important for sleep. It is also the main source of the neurotransmitter norepinephrine. Norepinephrine keeps you alert and ready to deal with problems or opportunities while you are awake. During the day, the neurons in the locus coeruleus fire all the time, releasing norepinephrine that keeps you awake. But as bedtime gets closer, something amazing happens. The locus coeruleus starts to calm down. The neurons that have been firing all day start to calm down, and the norepinephrine levels in your brain start to go down. This drop in norepinephrine is like taking away one of the main supports for your waking consciousness. It lets your brain settle into the different neural patterns that help you sleep. When the locus coeruleus calms down, it affects your whole nervous system. Norepinephrine usually helps with memory, attention, and emotional responses. Your ability to stay focused naturally decreases as its levels drop. Your feelings become less intense and more dreamy. The strong mental focus that comes with being awake starts to fade and blur around the edges. The Rafe nuclei, are another important part of the brainstem for sleep. They make most of the serotonin in your brain. People often think of serotonin as a feel-good neurotransmitter, but it has a more complicated role in sleep. Serotonin helps keep your mood stable and supports different parts of your thinking during the day. But like norepinephrine, serotonin levels go down as sleep gets closer, which helps calm down the brain systems that keep us awake. When norepinephrine and serotonin levels go down, it makes room for other neurotransmitter systems to become more important. As these chemicals that help you stay awake go away, systems that help you sleep become more powerful. The GABA system we talked about before takes over and spreads its calming effect throughout the brain. When you're awake, adenosine, a chemical that builds up in the brain as a result of neural activity, reaches levels that make you sleepy and sleepy. Adenosine is especially interesting because it's how your brain keeps track of how long you've been awake. Your neurons use a molecule called ATP to get energy throughout the day as they work to process information and stay awake. Adenosine is one of the things that comes out when ATP is broken down to free its energy. Your brain builds up more adenosine the longer you stay awake. Sleep researchers call the rising levels of adenosine sleep pressure. This is a biological urge to sleep that gets stronger over time. Adenosine works on certain receptors in your brain that make you sleepy and slow down systems that keep you awake. This is why you get more and more tired as the day goes on, even if you don't do anything physical. Your brain is literally keeping track of how long you've been awake and slowly increasing the pressure to rest and get better. Caffeine works by blocking adenosine receptors, which stops adenosine from making you sleepy. This is why caffeine can make you feel awake even when you haven't had enough sleep. It doesn't give you energy, it just stops your brain from getting the signals that tell it to rest. When the caffeine wears off, all the adenosine that has built up hits your adenosine receptors at once. This is what causes the caffeine crash that many people feel. As your brain gets into this sleep-friendly neurochemical state, high GABA and adenosine, low norepinephrine and serotonin, the real magic of sleep starts to happen. Your neurons, which spent the day making connections and remembering things, are now doing the important work of consolidation and maintenance. It's like the brain's nightly cleaning routine, but instead of cleaning furniture and putting things away in closets, your neurons are strengthening important memories and getting rid of the metabolic waste that built up while you were awake. Scientists poetically call this process synaptic scaling, or synaptic homeostasis. As you learn new things and have new experiences throughout the day, the connections between your neurons, which are called synapses, get stronger. Memories are made, and knowledge grows when synaptic connections get stronger. Every time you practice a skill or remember something, the neural pathway gets stronger and works better. But if this kept going on without stopping, your brain would eventually get full, like a hard drive that has no space left for new files. The synapses would get so strong and so many that they would get in each other's way, making neural noise that would make it hard for you to think clearly and remember new things. Your brain needs a way to keep the signal-to-noise ratio of neural communication stable. Sleep is the answer to this problem because it is both useful and very healing. Your brain weakens the strength of synaptic connections while you sleep, especially during the deep stages we'll talk about in a minute. This might sound counterproductive. Why would your brain weaken the connections that hold your memories and knowledge? But this process is actually very complicated. It doesn't make all connections weaker in the same way. Instead, it acts like a skilled editor, keeping the most important and meaningful connections while letting the weaker, less important ones fade away. This synaptic scaling has two great purposes. First, it clears out the neural equivalent of yesterday's newspaper, which is information that was important for a short time but doesn't need to be kept forever. This makes room for new learning. Second, it makes the signal-to-noise ratio of really important memories stronger, which makes them stand out more clearly from the background of everyday life. Your brain seems to lovingly curate the museum of your mind every night, deciding which exhibits should be on display and which should be put away or let go. Several molecular mechanisms that work during sleep are responsible for synaptic scaling. One of the most important ones is the control of proteins that affect the strength of synaptic connections. When you're awake, these proteins build up at synapses in response to brain activity. But while you sleep, other proteins become active that can change or remove these synaptic proteins. This effectively downscales the strength of connections throughout the brain. This downscaling isn't random, it's based on what happened the day before. Synapses that were used a lot and were part of important memories are more likely to be kept or even made stronger. Synapses that were only weakly or rarely activated are more likely to be reduced in size. In this way, sleep acts like a natural selection process for memories, keeping the ones that matter and getting rid of the ones that don't. But getting ready for sleep goes far beyond your brain. As your peripheral nervous system, the network of nerves that connects your brain and spinal cord to the rest of your body, adjusts to the rhythms of night, a similar change is happening throughout your body. As bedtime approaches, your autonomic nervous system, which controls the involuntary functions that keep you alive, also starts to change. The sympathetic nervous system gets your body ready for action during the day, while the parasympathetic nervous system promotes rest and recovery. These two parts of the system usually work together in a careful way. As sleep nears, your nervous system smoothly transitions from sympathetic to parasympathetic dominance. The sympathetic nervous system, which kept you awake and ready to face challenges all day, starts to lose its power. This system works by releasing neurotransmitters like norepinephrine and epinephrine, adrenaline, which speed up the heart rate, breathing rate, blood pressure, and muscle tension. These changes are great for the busy demands of daytime life, but they don't work with the quiet restoration that sleep needs. You can feel the changes in your body as sympathetic activity goes down. Your heart rate slows down from its daytime speed. When you are awake and active, it might be 70 to 80 beats per minute, but when you are in deep sleep, it is only 60 beats per minute or less. Your breathing becomes deeper and more regular as you go from the erratic patterns of waking breathing to the slow, steady rhythm of sleep breathing. As your blood vessels relax, your blood pressure goes down a little. This drop in blood pressure is good for both the heart and the brain's nightly maintenance activities. Lower blood pressure lets cerebrospinal fluid move more freely through neural tissue, which helps the body get rid of waste while you sleep. Your pupils, which opened up during the day to let in more light and keep you awake, start to close. The parasympathetic nervous system controls this pupillary constriction, which is part of the body's overall shift toward rest and saving energy. Your digestive system even starts to change how it works to get ready for the different metabolic needs of sleep. It's like your body is slowly and gently letting go of the stress it needed to get you through the day's tasks. The muscles that kept you standing up start to relax. The muscles in your face relax, which makes your expression calm and neutral. The small muscles around your eyes start to relax too. Your parasympathetic nervous system, which is also known as the rest and digest system, starts to take over at the same time. This is the part of your nervous system that helps you heal, grow, and get better. The parasympathetic system works with different pathways and neurotransmitters than the sympathetic system. It uses chemicals like acetylcholine to help you relax and recover. When the parasympathetic system is active, your digestive system works harder to break down the nutrients from the day while you sleep. To break down any food that is still in your stomach, it makes more acid. Your intestines contract more to move nutrients through your body. Your liver makes more proteins and other molecules that cells need to heal themselves. This is why eating a big meal right before bed can sometimes make it hard to sleep. Your digestive system is working hard and needs energy and attention. When you sleep, your immune system also becomes more active. You might think of sleep as a time when you don't do much, but your immune system actually works harder while you sleep. During sleep, the number of some types of white blood cells goes up. Cytokines, which are signaling molecules that help the immune system work together, are made in a certain way that peaks at night. This immune system activation while you sleep has a number of important purposes. It helps your body fight off infections that you might have come into contact with during the day. It helps fix tissues that were hurt by normal wear and tear, and it helps to strengthen your immune system's memory. which makes it easier for you to deal with threats in the future. Your parasympathetic nervous system also tells your pituitary gland to release growth hormone. This hormone is very important for repairing tissues, growing muscles, and doing all the other cellular maintenance tasks that keep your body healthy. It reaches its highest level during deep sleep. Growth hormone literally makes kids and teens taller overnight by speeding up the growth of bones and other tissues. In adults, growth hormone is still very important for healing and restoring health. It works all the time, even when people are asleep. During sleep, growth hormone is released in a very specific way. The most sleep occurs in the first few hours, especially during the deep, slow-wave sleep stages. This timing makes sense from a biological point of view, because growth hormone works best when the body is at rest and not busy with other metabolic needs. The hormone helps the body make proteins, break down fats, and fix tissues all over the body. Growth hormone also has big effects on your nervous system. It helps neurons grow and stay healthy, makes new synaptic connections, and helps repair neural tissue that may have been hurt during the day. You wake up every morning with a nervous system that has been refreshed and renewed by the growth hormone that is released while you sleep. Your core body temperature starts to drop as your body gets used to this parasympathetic state. This may seem like a simple physical reaction to not moving, but it's actually a complex biological signal that helps set the time for sleep. Every day, your body temperature rises during the day to help your metabolism work and falls at night to help you sleep. The drop in temperature that happens before sleep is both a cause and an effect of the sleep process. Your brain's master clock tells you it's time to go to bed, which starts processes that help you lose heat. Blood vessels close to your skin widen to let warmth escape into the air. You might naturally want to sleep in a cooler place or change your clothes to help you lose heat. Your hypothalamus, which is a part of your brain that controls your body's temperature, is in charge of this cooling process. There are special neurons in the hypothalamus that can sense changes in body temperature and tell the body how to react. As the sun goes down, these thermosensitive neurons start to cool your body down so that you can sleep. The link between sleep and temperature is very clear. Your core body temperature usually drops by 1 to 2 degrees Fahrenheit while you sleep. The lowest point is usually between 4 and 6 a.m. This is the lowest temperature at which you are most likely to feel sleepy if you are awake, and the hardest time to stay awake. This temperature pattern can help explain a lot of things that happen when you sleep. That's why a lot of people naturally put their feet out from under the covers when they sleep. The hands and feet are important places for heat to escape, and cooling these parts of the body helps lower the overall core temperature. This is why a cool room often feels better for sleeping than a warm one. Your body is naturally cooling down, and this is why a warm bath before bed can actually help you sleep, even though it seems like it would make you sleep less. The warm bath makes your blood vessels open up, and when you get out, the quick cooling helps your body get ready for sleep. One of the many things your nervous system uses to start the complex process of falling asleep is temperature. Your body's temperature receptors send information to your brain about the temperature of the environment. This information is combined with other signals about the time of day, the amount of light, and the pressure to sleep inside your body to figure out the best time to sleep. It's a great example of how your body's different systems talk to each other using the same language of chemistry and physics. Your nervous system doesn't work alone. It gets information from your cardiovascular system, endocrine system, immune system, and even the temperature of your skin all the time. It then uses this information to create a coordinated response that helps you fall asleep faster. Now that your nervous system is getting used to its nighttime routine, you are starting to sleep properly for the first time. There are different stages of sleep, and each one has its own pattern of brain activity and role in restoring your body at night. Electroencephalography, EEG, is a method that uses electrodes placed on your scalp to measure the electrical activity of your brain. This is how these stages were found. The first stage is called N1 sleep, which stands for non-REM, or non-rapid eye movement sleep. This name sets it apart from REM sleep, which we'll talk about later on our journey. N1 sleep is the gentle shift from being awake to being asleep. It is a liminal state that usually lasts only a few minutes, but is a very important link between the conscious and unconscious worlds. During N1 sleep, your brain waves slow down even more into the theta range we talked about before. This makes long rolling waves of electrical activity that move across your cortex like gentle swells across a calm ocean. These theta waves, which go around 4 to 8 times per second, show a big change in how your neurons talk to each other. When you're awake and paying attention, your brain waves are usually in the beta range, 13 to 30 Hz. When you're relaxed, they're usually in the alpha range, 8 to 13 Hz. These higher frequencies help with the quick processing of information and making decisions that conscious awareness needs. But when you go into N1 sleep, the slower theta rhythms take over. This shows that your brain is no longer trying to stay active in the world around you. You go from being awake to being asleep when your brain waves change from alpha to theta. People often say that they lose awareness of their surroundings at this point, even though they may still be somewhat responsive to things happening around them. During N1 sleep, you are still somewhat aware of your surroundings, but your awareness has become dreamy and detached. This is because your brain is going through different neural rhythms as it transitions. You might have hypnagogic hallucinations at this point. These are short, vivid images or feelings that seem to come out of nowhere. These aren't real dreams yet. They're just the first signs that the unconscious mind is starting to speak. You might see flashes of colour, hear bits of conversation, or feel like you're falling. This is the classic hypnic jerk that wakes people up during this time. Hypnagogic hallucinations happen when your brain is learning how to work in a new way. Your sensory systems work together to make sense of the world around you when you are awake. Your visual system takes in real images from your surroundings. Your auditory system takes in real sounds, and your brain combines all of this information into your conscious mind. But this sensory integration isn't as reliable during the N1 transition. The thalamus is starting to block sensory information, which slows down the flow of signals from outside to your cortex. Your brain is also starting to make its own patterns of activity that will eventually turn into dreams. The hypnagogic phenomena of N1 sleep show how these two processes are similar. Bits of brain activity mix with less sensory information that is still there. These things happen because your thalamus is still partly open to the outside world. This lets bits of sensory information mix with the first stages of brain activity that are like dreams. Your mind is learning to speak a new language, the language of dreams, and these hypnagogic experiences are its first tentative words. The hypnic jerk, which is the sudden feeling of falling that can wake you up just as you're about to fall asleep, is your brain's way of protecting you during this risky time. When your muscles start to relax in preparation for sleep, your brain sometimes misreads this as a sign of danger and causes a reflexive muscle contraction that briefly wakes you up. It's an evolutionary remnant, a way to protect ourselves that may have helped our ancestors avoid falling out of trees or other high places where they slept. Your muscle tone starts to drop during N1 sleep, but you're not completely paralyzed yet. That will happen later. Your breathing gets more regular, but it's not yet as slow and deep as it will be. Your heart rate is still slowing down, but it hasn't reached the lowest point it can go while you sleep. N1 is a real transition state, a soft bridge between being awake and being deeply asleep. In healthy adults, this first stage of sleep usually lasts only 5 to 10 minutes, but don't let its shortness fool you into thinking it's not important. N1 sleep is an important neurological milestone because it's when your brain stops being awake and starts the sleep process. People who have trouble making this change may have trouble sleeping and lie awake for hours, unable to cross this line. When you go from N1 sleep to N2 sleep, your nervous system crosses a clearer line into unconsciousness. N2 sleep is the most important part of your sleep. In healthy adults, it usually makes up about 45 to 55% of the total time spent sleeping. This is when your brain really starts to show the unique electrical patterns of sleep, which are different from anything else that happens when you're awake. During N2 sleep, your EEG starts to show two things that sleep researchers call sleep spindles and K complexes. These unique wave patterns are so reliable that they are used to define this stage of sleep. Researchers who study sleep know that the brain has definitely gone to sleep when they see it on an EEG recording. Sleep spindles are short bursts of rhythmic brainwave activity that happen every few seconds during N2 sleep and last for about 0.5 to 1 second. Their name comes from how they look on an EEG readout, where they look like the spindle shape of a football spinning through the air, an amplitude that rises quickly and then falls slowly. These spindles usually happen 12 to 14 times per second, which is in the lower part of the beta range. However, their burst-like pattern sets them apart from waking beta activity. Your thalamus, which has been slowly closing the gates to outside awareness, makes sleep spindles. But instead of just blocking information, your thalamus starts to make these rhythmic bursts of activity during N2 sleep that serve many purposes. The spindles help you stay asleep by stopping sensory information from getting to the cortex, but they do this in a way that lets important signals through. Sleep spindles are like a high-tech alarm system for your brain while you sleep. They make it so that people don't respond as much to things outside of themselves for a while, but they also make it so that important information can still get to the brain if it needs to. Even though both sounds are at about the same volume, a parent who is sleeping through normal household noises might wake up right away when they hear their baby crying. The brain's sleep spindle system helps us tell the difference between these important things. Studies have demonstrated that individuals who produce a greater quantity of sleep spindles generally experience more restorative sleep and report enhanced sleep quality. The spindles seem to show that the brain can keep you asleep even when things around you are hard. People who have trouble sleeping often have less sleep spindle activity, which suggests that their brains may have trouble keeping the protective barriers that let them sleep without interruptions. The thalamus has a complicated circuit that makes sleep spindles. Reticular thalamic neurons, which are a type of neuron, act as pacemakers by sending out rhythmic bursts of inhibitory activity that make the spindle pattern. These neurons get information from both the cortex and other thalamic areas. This lets them change the frequency and intensity of the spindle based on how the brain is doing overall. It's interesting that the frequency of sleep spindles differs from person to person. This could be because of genetic differences in how the brain is built and works. Some people naturally make spindles at the lower end of the frequency range, about 11 to 12 Hz, while others make spindles that are faster, 13 to 15 Hz. These individual differences seem to stay the same over time, almost like a neural fingerprint that shows how each person sleeps differently. K-complexes are even more interesting than sleep spindles. These are big, slow waves that show up on the EEG all of a sudden, like gentle giants walking across the landscape of your sleeping mind. A K-complex is a pattern that lasts for several seconds and looks like a sharp negative wave followed by a slower positive wave. They happen on their own during N2 sleep, but they can also be caused by sounds or other things from the outside world. It's amazing that K-complexes can be triggered by things outside of the body. Your nervous system keeps an eye on things even when you're asleep, and mostly cut off from the outside world. It can spot and assess possible threats or important information. When your brain is asleep and hears a sound that might need your attention, it makes a K-complex to quickly check if the sound is important enough to wake you up. You don't even know that this process is happening because it happens so quickly. Your brain hears the sound, decides it's not important enough to wake you up, and lets you keep sleeping peacefully. Your brain only starts to wake you up when it hears something that is really important, like a baby's cry, a smoke alarm, or someone calling your name. Internal events in the brain itself can also cause K-complexes. They can happen when someone wakes up briefly or is aroused but doesn't reach the level of consciousness. The K-complex seems to be a way to actively keep the arousal down and keep the sleep going in these situations. Your brain seems to be saying, "No, we're sleeping now," and is working hard to keep you from waking up. Several parts of the brain need to work together to make K-complexes. The first sharp wave seems to come from the frontal cortex, while the slower wave seems to come from deeper brain areas like the thalamus. This distributed generation implies that K-complexes signify a comprehensive cerebral response to potential sleep disturbances, reflecting a synchronized endeavor by the nervous system to preserve a tranquil state of rest. Sleep spindles and K-complexes both help keep your sleep from being disturbed, while still letting your brain respond to things that are really important. They are elegant answers to one of the most important problems with sleep: how to be unconscious and restorative while still being safe and able to respond to real emergencies. Your brain does this while you sleep by using these complex patterns of neural activity that can tell the difference between what's important and what's not. Your body keeps relaxing slowly during N2 sleep. Your heart rate and breathing slow down and become more regular than they were in N1. Your core body temperature keeps going down until it reaches its lowest point at night. Most importantly, your muscle tone drops a lot compared to when you wake up, but not as much as it will during the REM sleep we'll talk about later. Your brainstem controls this drop in muscle tone during N2 sleep through a complicated network of inhibitory signals. Neurons in the pons and medulla send signals down your spinal cord that make the motor neurons that control your voluntary muscles less excitable. This makes your muscles relax more deeply than you can do on your own while you're awake. N2 sleep relaxes your muscles, which is important for a number of reasons. It lowers the amount of energy your body uses, which lets it focus its resources on repairing and restoring itself. It stops you from doing any movements that might happen in your dreams, or when you're mentally active while you sleep. And it might help improve the way blood flows through your body, which helps your heart rest while you sleep. Scientists call this muscle atonia, and it is controlled by your brainstem through the release of certain neurotransmitters. Glycine and GABA are both inhibitory neurotransmitters that are released at synapses in your spinal cord. This disconnects your motor cortex from your muscles. It's a short-term paralysis that can be fully reversed. It keeps your body still and safe while your brain does its nightly repair work. One of the biggest changes in the brain during the whole sleep cycle happens when you go from N2 to N3 sleep, which is also called slow wave sleep or deep sleep. The brain waves during N3 sleep are the slowest of the whole sleep cycle. They are big rolling delta waves that move across your cortex at a slow pace of less than 4 cycles per second. These are the most in-sync brain waves your nervous system can make. This level of neural coordination is impossible when you're awake. When you think about what they mean, the delta waves of deep sleep are really amazing. Your billions of neurons tend to fire independently when you're awake, which creates the complex, chaotic patterns of electrical activity that support the wide range of conscious thought. You can pay attention to one thing while other things happen in the background, switch quickly between different types of thinking, and keep track of more than one stream of information at the same time. But during N3 sleep, something amazing happens. Millions and millions of neurons start to fire together in slow, coordinated bursts. It's like a huge, disorganized crowd suddenly starts marching in perfect time. This firing in sync makes the delta waves that are big and slow, which are what deep sleep is all about. EEG electrodes can even pick up these waves through the skull and scalp. Your brain can do things that would be impossible when you are awake, and your neurons are firing randomly. The slow, coordinated waves of N3 sleep seem to work like a gentle tide, moving through your brain and taking away the metabolic waste that built up during the day. Recent studies have shown that during deep sleep, the gaps between your brain cells can grow by as much as 60%. This lets cerebrospinal fluid move more freely through neural tissue and get rid of toxins. This discovery has changed everything we thought we knew about why we sleep. Your brain doesn't have a regular lymphatic system like other organs in your body do to get rid of waste. Instead, it uses this glymphatic system, which is a network of fluid-filled channels that work hard while you sleep. The synchronized neural activity during deep sleep seems to cause the pulsating flow of cerebrospinal fluid that powers this cleaning system. The waste products removed during this nightly cleansing include some that are directly related to neurodegenerative diseases. People with Alzheimer's disease have a lot of amyloid beta, a protein that builds up in their brains. Deep sleep helps get rid of this protein more quickly. During these times of increased waste clearance, the tau protein, which is linked to different types of dementia, is also processed. Some scientists now think that this nightly cleansing process is one of the main reasons we sleep. Your brain makes metabolic waste products as a normal part of neural activity, just like your muscles make lactic acid when you work out. But your brain needs this special state of synchronized slow wave activity to open the pathways for effective waste removal. Muscles can be rested and cleaned separately, so the amount of deep sleep you get may have a big effect on the health of your brain in the long run. People who don't get enough deep sleep on a regular basis may not be getting rid of these waste products from their brains well enough, which could make them more likely to get neurodegenerative diseases later in life. It reminds us how important it is to get good sleep as we get older to keep our brains healthy. Your brain also works on memory consolidation while you are in deep sleep, as we talked about before. The slow waves of N3 sleep seem to help move information from temporary storage areas in your hippocampus to more permanent storage areas in your cortex. This process involves the synchronized replay of patterns of neural activity that were formed during learning. When you learn something new during the day, groups of neurons in your hippocampus fire together in certain ways to store the new information. During deep sleep, these same groups of neurons spontaneously reactivate, firing in the same patterns but much faster than when the person first learned the information. This faster replay seems to help move memory traces from the hippocampus to the cortex, where they can be combined with what you already know and stored for longer. The process works very well. During sleep, a pattern of neural activity that might have taken several seconds to form while learning can be played back in just a few milliseconds. This time compression lets your brain go over and solidify a lot of information during the short hours of deep sleep. It's like watching a fast-paced movie of your day's events, with your brain picking and choosing which scenes should be kept in your permanent memory. This process of consolidating memories is why getting a good night's sleep after learning something new can make it much easier to remember and understand the next day. Students who stay up all night studying for tests are actually stopping their brains from doing the work that would help them do better. The information might be in their hippocampus for a short time, but without the consolidation that happens during deep sleep, a lot of it will be lost or not fit in well with what they already know. It looks like the slow waves of deep sleep also help with synaptic homeostasis, which is the process of keeping the connections between neurons strong. When you're awake, synapses all over your brain get stronger as you learn and have new experiences. But you need to find a balance in this process so that your neural networks don't get too much information. When you're in deep sleep, the synchronized slow waves seem to send a global reset signal that lowers the strength of synapses all over the cortex. This downscaling doesn't get rid of memories. Instead, it makes the overall strength of synaptic connections normal, while keeping the relative differences that encode specific memories. It's like turning down the volume on an entire sound system to keep the instruments at the same level of loudness without making them sound bad. The release of growth hormone that happens most during deep sleep also helps your nervous system heal physically. Even though neurons are very advanced, they are still living cells that need to be cared for and fixed. As they break down over time, the proteins that make up their structure need to be replaced. It is important to keep the membranes that control the flow of electrical signals in good shape. Based on what happens during the day, the synapses that connect one neuron to another need to be made stronger, weaker, or replaced. Growth hormone helps all of these things happen by making proteins in the nervous system. When you sleep deeply, your neurons make more of the proteins they need to keep their structure, fix cells, and keep synapses working. This is why deep sleep is so important for healing brain injuries or when you're learning a lot. Your nervous system literally rebuilds itself while you sleep. The amount of deep sleep you get follows patterns that are easy to predict over your lifetime. Kids and teens spend a lot more time in deep sleep than adults do. This is because their brains are still growing and they are learning and growing a lot during these times. Young children may spend 20 to 25% of their total sleep time in deep sleep, while healthy adults usually spend 15 to 20%. As we get older, we gradually get less deep sleep. Older adults might only spend 5 to 10% of their sleep time in the deepest stages, and some might not even get any deep sleep at all. This decrease in deep sleep that comes with age may be linked to some of the cognitive changes that come with aging, such as less memory consolidation and a higher risk of neurodegenerative diseases. As we get older, our brains change in ways that make it harder for us to get deep sleep. The brain areas that make slow waves, especially the frontal cortex, change with age in ways that can make it harder for them to make the synchronized activity that is needed for deep sleep. Researchers are looking into ways to help people keep their deep sleep as they get older, because they understand these changes. As M3 sleep gets deeper, usually in the first third of the night, your nervous system gets very close to perfect rest. Your brain waves are moving the slowest and most in sync. Your body temperature has dropped to its lowest point for the night. Your heart rate and breathing are at their most relaxed right now. The protective mechanisms in your brainstem keep your muscles in a gentle suspension, making you feel more relaxed than ever. Deep sleep is when your blood pressure drops to its lowest point of the day. This gives your heart and blood vessels a much-needed break and time to heal. The lower pressure lets your heart work less hard while still making sure that all your organs get enough blood flow. People who don't get enough deep sleep are more likely to have high blood pressure and other heart problems because this cardiovascular rest is so important. During deep sleep, your immune system is at its most active, and different types of immune cells move around your body more quickly. During sleep, your body makes more antibodies that fight infections, and your immune system's memory, its ability to remember and respond to future threats, gets stronger. This is why you often feel better after sleeping when you're sick, and why not getting enough sleep makes you more likely to get sick. Your endocrine system also goes through big changes while you sleep deeply. Your body releases other hormones besides growth hormone that help with repair and restoration. During sleep, prolactin, a hormone that helps the immune system and tissue repair, reaches its highest level. Melatonin keeps moving around your body, helping cells fight off free radicals. Your body's ability to process glucose and keep blood sugar levels stable changes while you sleep. An outside observer might think that this is a state of complete inactivity, but that couldn't be more wrong. When you sleep deeply, your nervous system is like a master craftsman working in a well-organized workshop. Every tool is in its place, every process is optimized, and every action is planned and effective. The calmness on the outside hides an amazing symphony of cellular activity, all aimed at healing, strengthening, and getting ready for the next day's events. The neurons in your cortex fire in slow, coordinated patterns. This makes the cerebrospinal fluid flow, which cleans up waste from your brain. Your hippocampus is playing back memories from the day and moving them to places where they will stay forever. Growth hormone is making new proteins in your nervous system that are needed for cell maintenance and repair. Your autonomic nervous system still carefully controls your heart rate, breathing, and other vital functions, but at a lower level that is right for deep sleep. Your temperature control system keeps your core temperature low while making sure that your vital organs stay warm enough. While you sleep, your immune system is on high alert, looking for and destroying any possible threats. Your nervous system starts to wake you up slowly from a deep sleep, but not in a straight line. Instead, it goes in a circle that repeats all night, going from N3 to N2, and then to N1 for a short time before going into the most interesting and mysterious stage of sleep, REM, or rapid eye movement sleep. One of the most dramatic changes in all of neuroscience is the change from deep sleep to REM sleep. Deep sleep is like a quiet, organized workshop where things get done in perfect harmony. REM sleep is like a lively theater where your mind's most complex plays happen in vivid, impossible detail. Your brain is almost as active metabolically during REM sleep as it is when you're awake. But this activity is turned inward, which is what makes dreams so rich and complex. When you go into REM sleep, your brain's neurotransmitter systems completely change. The chemicals that were most active during the first stages of sleep, like GABA, adenosine, and the slow wave generating mechanisms, start to fade into the background. Your brain starts to release acetylcholine instead. This is the same neurotransmitter that keeps you awake and focused during the day. Acetylcholine, on the other hand, during REM sleep makes you focus on the theatre of your own mind instead of the outside world. The brainstem areas that make REM sleep happen, especially the pons, start sending signals to your nervous system that make this stage different. These neurons in the brainstem fire in strong bursts that travel up to your thalamus and cortex, making the high-frequency brain waves that are common during REM sleep. At the same time, they send signals down to your spinal cord that cause the most severe muscle paralysis of the entire sleep cycle. Your eyes start to move quickly from side to side under your eyelids, following the pictures in your dreams. This stage of sleep is called REM sleep because of the rapid eye movements that happen during it. The eye movements are not random. They seem to match the visual content of dreams, as if you are actually watching the scenes play out in your sleep. During REM sleep, your breathing changes a lot. Sometimes it's fast and shallow, and other times it's deep and slow. This depends on what you're dreaming about. When you dream about running, your breathing might speed up as if you were really doing it. If you dream about having a calm conversation, your breathing might be slower and more regular. Your heart rate also changes more, depending on how you feel about the things in your dreams. During REM sleep, your brain waves change from the slow, synchronized patterns of deep sleep to faster, more chaotic rhythms that are very similar to those of waking consciousness. Gamma waves and beta waves come back. Gamma waves are some of the fastest brain waves your nervous system makes. This high-frequency activity shows how much work your brain does while you sleep, creating complex sensory experiences, emotions, and stories all on its own. But the most interesting thing is that your muscles relax even more during REM sleep. During the early stages of sleep, you are gently paralyzed, but during REM sleep, you become almost completely still. The only parts of your body that are still moving are your diaphragm, which keeps you breathing, and the tiny muscles that move your eyes. This full relaxation of the muscles is very important for REM sleep because dreams can be very real and active. Neurons in your brainstem release glycine and GABA at synapses all over your spinal cord, which causes the muscle paralysis of REM sleep. These neurotransmitters stop your motor cortex from connecting to your voluntary muscles, which keeps the things you might do in your dreams, running, fighting, dancing, flying, safely in your sleeping mind. This protective paralysis is so strong that if you could somehow wake up from REM sleep right away, you wouldn't be able to move for a few seconds while your brainstem systems got back to normal motor control. People sometimes experience this condition called sleep paralysis, which makes them aware before the REM atonia is fully worn off. This makes them feel awake but unable to move, which is scary but not dangerous. The dreams that happen during REM sleep are very different from anything else your nervous system makes. They mix memories, feelings, sensations, and imaginary things in ways that would be impossible when you are awake. You might fly through childhood scenes that turn into your current workplace, talk to people who died years ago, or solve hard problems with solutions that make perfect sense in the dream but seem strange when you wake up. These dreams are a result of the unique neural activity that happens during REM sleep. Thalamic gating cuts off most of your sensory systems from the outside world. This makes your brain start to make its own reality using the same neural networks that process real perceptions when you are awake. The visual cortex, which usually processes signals from your eyes, instead responds to signals from your brainstem, which makes dreams so vivid. During REM sleep, your auditory cortex, which usually processes sounds from your ears, reacts to activity in your brain, creating the conversations, music, and sound effects you hear in dreams. The somatosensory cortex makes you feel things in your dreams, like the wind when you're flying, the water when you're swimming, and the touch of things and people in your dream world. During REM sleep, your brain's emotional centers, especially the amygdala and other limbic structures, become very active. This is why dreams can be so emotional, from the joy of dreams that come true to the fear of nightmares. Dreams can make you feel stronger than you do when you're awake, because they don't have the prefrontal cortex to help control your emotional responses. This making of an internal world is good for your nervous system in many ways. Dreams seem to be very important for processing emotions because they let you deal with feelings and events in a safe, simulated setting. REM sleep's strong emotional activation may help you deal with traumatic or stressful events, by adding them to your existing emotional framework in a way that makes them less disruptive when you're awake. It also seems that dreams help people come up with new ideas and solve problems. During REM sleep, your brain can connect different pieces of information in ways that might not happen when you're awake and thinking in a more logical, linear way. A lot of artists, scientists, and inventors have said that they have had big ideas in their dreams. This suggests that REM sleep is very important for creative thinking. The strange and impossible things that happen in dreams may be a normal part of this neural process. REM sleep lets your brain explore new combinations of ideas and experiences by temporarily putting aside the rules that govern waking thought. Dreams can help your brain test out new neural connections and pathways that might be useful in real life. For example, you might dream about flying, talking to dead relatives, or moving between places without any trouble. It seems that REM sleep also helps with procedural memory consolidation, which is the process of making skills and habits stronger instead of specific factual memories. Research indicates that individuals acquiring a new motor skill experience heightened REM sleep the subsequent night, with the quantity of REM sleep correlating to skill enhancement. This indicates that REM sleep aids in the consolidation of both the movements and the neural programs governing skilled behavior. Changes in neurotransmitters that happen during REM sleep have big effects on your whole nervous system. REM sleep lowers levels of norepinephrine and serotonin, which doesn't just affect your brain. These chemicals also control many functions of the peripheral nervous system. During REM sleep, norepinephrine levels drop, which may make it harder for the body to control its temperature. This is because norepinephrine usually helps control blood vessel constriction and heat retention. During REM sleep, your body has a harder time keeping your temperature stable, which makes you more sensitive to the temperature around you. You might wake up more often from REM sleep if your sleeping area is too hot or too cold. People may have more vivid dreams in the early morning hours, when REM sleep is most common and room temperatures are usually at their coolest. This could be because they are sensitive to temperature. REM sleep's high levels of acetylcholine also have special effects on your autonomic nervous system. During REM sleep, your heart rate changes more than it does during other stages of sleep. This is called heart rate variability. It seems that the emotional content of dreams is linked to this increased variability. For example, your heart rate may speed up during exciting or scary dream sequences and slow down during calm dream periods. Your breathing patterns during REM sleep also change more often, and they can even stop for a short time or become irregular. These changes in breathing are usually not harmful for healthy people, but they can be more of a problem for people who have sleep apnea or other sleep-disordered breathing conditions. People with breathing-related sleep disorders may find it especially hard to get through REM sleep because the muscle relaxation can make airway obstruction worse. The cycle between REM and non-REM sleep goes on all night, usually in a set pattern called sleep architecture. You spend more time in the deeper stages of non-REM sleep early in the night, when your sleep pressure is highest and your circadian drive to wake up is lowest. You get most of your physical restoration and memory consolidation during these early deep sleep periods, which are very important after a busy day. As the night goes on and you get some of your sleep debt paid off, the REM periods get longer and happen more often. The longest and most vivid REM periods usually happen in the hours just before you naturally wake up, when your body's circadian system is getting ready for the day ahead. This is why you probably remember dreams from the early morning hours. You spend more time in REM sleep, and you are more likely to wake up right after a REM period. The fact that the balance between non-REM and REM sleep changes shows that these stages have different jobs. Deep sleep takes over early in the night, when your body needs to heal the most. As your body gets closer to being fully restored later in the night, REM sleep takes over. This is when your brain processes emotions and integrates memories to get you ready for the mental challenges of a new day. Your circadian clock and your homeostatic sleep drive work together in a complicated way to create the whole pattern. Your circadian system sets the basic times for when you should sleep and wake up, and your homeostatic system keeps track of how long you've been awake and changes the intensity and makeup of your sleep as needed. This two-step process helps make sure you get the right amount of sleep at the right times. Your homeostatic drive will be higher if you go to bed later than usual, which will help you get more deep sleep early in the night. When you're under emotional stress, your brain may need more time or more REM periods to process what you're going through. As dawn approaches and your sleep cycles come to an end, your nervous system starts to slowly bring you back to waking consciousness. This process of waking up is just as carefully planned as the process of going to sleep. It involves the coordinated activation of many brain systems that bring waking function back to normal. Your circadian clock, which has been keeping track of time all night, starts to let you know that it's time to wake up. Even when there are no outside light cues, your suprachiasmatic nucleus can keep track of time pretty well, getting your body ready to wake up at about the right time every day. As morning approaches, your core body temperature, which dropped to its lowest point during deep sleep, begins to rise a little. One of the first signs that your body is getting ready for the metabolic demands of waking up is that your temperature goes up. The warming trend starts even before you wake up, getting your heart and blood vessels ready for the extra activity that will come with being awake. As your pineal gland gets signals from inside your body about the coming dawn, your brain makes less melatonin. Even without light from outside, your circadian system can tell when the next day is coming and start to make less melatonin. When you wake up and see light from outside, it confirms and strengthens this internal timing signal. The cortisol awakening response is when cortisol levels start to rise. This increase in cortisol helps your body use its energy stores and get back to the alert, focused state of waking consciousness. The release of this cortisol is perfectly timed with your body's circadian rhythms. It usually starts 2 to 3 hours before you wake up and reaches its peak shortly after you wake up. But this process of waking up is slow and careful so that your different neural systems can work together to get going. Your thalamus starts to let sensory information back in, slowly making it more responsive to sights, sounds, and other things in the environment. The process slowly turns off the sensory gating that kept you from waking up, so you don't have to deal with the sudden change that would happen if all sensory input came back at once. As your brainstem sends fewer signals that keep your voluntary muscles relaxed while you sleep, your muscle atonia starts to go away. Your protective paralysis is slowly going away as the glycine and GABA that caused it are cleared from spinal synapses. This lets normal motor control come back. It usually takes a few minutes for this to happen, which is why you might feel a little groggy or unsteady when you first wake up. Your brain waves change from the patterns of sleep to the rhythms of waking up. Alpha waves may take over for a short time as you wake up and become fully alert. This is what many people feel when they wake up. As your brain deals with the demands of being aware of your surroundings and thinking about things, beta waves slowly take over. As your waking systems turn back on, the balance of neurotransmitters in your brain changes a lot. As neurons in your brainstem start to work normally again, norepinephrine and serotonin levels, which were low during REM sleep, start to rise. Dopamine systems that help with motivation and processing rewards start working again. Acetylcholine is still important, but now it helps with learning and attention while you're awake instead of making dreams. Your autonomic nervous system switches from being parasympathetic to sympathetic, getting your body ready for the day's activities. Your heart rate goes up from the lowest level it can be while you sleep to the normal level when you wake up. As your body gets used to supporting an active metabolism, your breathing gets deeper and more variable. Your blood pressure goes up as your heart and blood vessels get ready to support standing up and moving around. One of the most amazing things that the brain can do is switch from sleep to wakefulness. Your nervous system goes from being focused on the inside, which is best for healing and processing, to being focused on the outside, which is ready to deal with the complexities of the conscious world. It's like seeing a theatre empty after a show and then turning back into a busy city street. The same neural architecture is there, but it serves a different purpose. Your prefrontal cortex, which was mostly off while you were sleeping, turns back on and starts to give you the executive control that is a sign of mature human consciousness. Working memory comes back online, which lets you keep and work with information in your conscious mind. Attention systems turn back on, letting you focus on important information while ignoring other things that might get in the way. As you wake up, you start to feel the effects of the memory consolidation and synaptic scaling that happened while you were sleeping. Information that was only weakly encoded the day before may now be more firmly stored in memory. Yesterday's problems that seemed impossible to solve might have answers that are clear now. The skills you practiced might come to you more easily and naturally. Your nervous system has been working hard all night to keep you healthy, process what you've been through, and get you ready for the new day's challenges and opportunities. Deep sleep has improved lymphatic flow, which has helped clear metabolic waste from your brain. It has made important memories stronger while letting less important ones fade away, which is the best way to store information for a long time. Your nervous system has processed the emotional events of the day before through the intense limbic activation of REM sleep. This has added them to your ongoing psychological story in ways that help you stay emotionally strong and healthy. The deep sleep hormone release and protein synthesis have kept and repaired the cellular infrastructure of your brain and body. Your immune system has done its nightly patrol, finding and getting rid of possible threats while also strengthening its memory of past encounters. Your endocrine system has set hormone levels back to normal and gotten your body's chemical messengers ready for another day of working together. Your heart and blood vessels have had important hours of less work while still keeping the blood flowing that is needed for healing and repair. This is the gentle miracle of sleep, which your nervous system controls with more accuracy and care than any human-made technology. Every neuron, synapse, and chemical messenger works together perfectly to give you the gift of rest and renewal. The process is so complicated that millions of individual cells work together over many timescales to give you the smooth experience of sleep and waking up that you have every night. And what makes this even more amazing is that you don't have to do anything to make it happen. It happens all on its own. You don't have to remember to slow your heart rate while you sleep, let go of growth hormone while you sleep, or make REM dreams. You don't have to think about when to go to sleep, or remember to wake up your motor systems when you wake up. Your nervous system takes care of all of these complicated details just as well as it takes care of your breathing or your heart beating. All you have to do is make the right conditions for sleep. A comfortable place to sleep, a calm mind, and a body that is ready to sleep. Your nervous system will take care of the rest, with an efficiency and sophistication that will amaze you the more you learn about it. The fact that sleep happens on its own is one of the best things your nervous system does for you. In a world that often requires constant attention and conscious control, sleep provides a refuge where one can relinquish control and have faith in the innate wisdom of one's biology. You don't need to manage, optimize, or control the process of sleep. You just need to let it happen and give in to the gentle guidance of systems that have been getting better and better over millions of years of evolution. Getting ready for bed every night is one of the oldest and most important things people do on Earth. Almost every animal with a nervous system shows some kind of sleep-like behavior, so sleep isn't just for people. The preservation of sleep throughout evolution, despite its apparent susceptibility, underscores its essential role in nervous system functionality. Your sleep is linked to the sleep of many other living things. They all follow the same patterns of rest and activity that have been shaped by the same planetary rhythms of light and darkness that have ruled life for billions of years. Melatonin from your pineal gland is the same chemical as melatonin from other mammals, birds, and even plants. The slow waves that happen when you are in deep sleep are similar to those that happen in other mammals. This evolutionary view adds to the amazement of the nightly journey your nervous system takes you on. You're not just healing and renewing yourself, you're also taking part in a biological process that links you to all life on Earth and follows rhythms that are as basic as the rotation of the planet. Before you go to sleep tonight, take a moment to think about how amazing your body is at keeping you safe while you sleep. Be thankful for the neurons that will slow down their firing to give you peace, the chemicals that will wash through your brain to help you heal, the protective paralysis that will keep you safe while you dream, and the biological clocks that will make sure you wake up at the right time, feeling refreshed and renewed. Think about how the growth hormone will flow through your blood and help your body repair itself and keep cells healthy. While you sleep, your immune cells will be on high alert and will patrol your tissues. Be thankful for the systems that control your temperature, your breathing, and your heart. They will all keep you comfortable and your blood flowing smoothly. Be amazed by the memory consolidation processes that will organize and combine your experiences, making important memories stronger and letting less important ones fade away. Be amazed by the emotional processing systems that will help you stay mentally stable and strong by working through the things that happen during the day. Recognize that REM sleep can help you think outside the box and come up with new ideas and solutions to problems you're having. Your nervous system doesn't ask you for anything in return except the chance to do what it does best. Take care of you with a level of care and accuracy that knows no bounds. It doesn't need to be managed or controlled on purpose. You don't have to understand or appreciate it, but doing so can help you get to know this amazing system better. It just wants to serve you and give you the rest and restoration you need to thrive. When you start to fall asleep and your mind starts to fade, billions of cells hold you in their gentle embrace. Their only goal is to give you the rest you need to thrive. Have faith in that hug. Let your own beautiful, complicated, and caring nervous system take you to sleep. Think about how amazing what is about to happen is. When you lie still in bed, your brain will start to make slow waves that will wash away the metabolic waste from the day. Your hippocampus will quickly replay the events of the day, moving important memories to long-term storage and letting unimportant ones fade away. While you sleep, your immune system will work harder, sending out cellular guards to protect and fix your body. Your levels of growth hormone will rise, which will help your body's tissues repair and maintain themselves. Your brain will get rid of harmful proteins that could build up and cause problems over time. Your heart will get a break during this time of lower demand, but it will still need to circulate blood to help it heal. In a few hours, you'll be in REM sleep, which is like a theatre where your brain makes up amazing, impossible worlds, using memories, feelings, and imagination. You'll fly through places that only exist in your dreams. You'll use the free imaginative logic of dreams to figure things out. While you sleep, you'll work through your feelings in a safe place, adding what happened during the day to your ongoing psychological story. You won't have to do anything to make any of this happen. You don't have to worry about directing the process or whether it's working right. Your nervous system has been perfecting these procedures for your entire lifetime and for countless generations before you. It knows exactly what to do and when to do it. You just have to let it happen. Imagine that your nervous system is the most caring caregiver you can think of. It never sleeps, takes breaks, or stops working for your health. It doesn't ask for thanks or recognition, but both are fine. It just keeps serving you faithfully, day and night, making sure you have everything you need to live, learn, love, and grow. This caregiver knows you better than you do. It keeps track of every breath you've taken, every heartbeat, and every time you've slept or woken up in your life. It has learned to give you the best rest and recovery based on your own patterns and preferences. It can tell when you need more REM sleep and when you need more deep sleep. It knows how to change your sleep schedule based on what you've been through recently and what you need right now. Your nervous system also links you to something bigger than yourself, the rhythms of nature and the cycles of light and dark that have been in charge of life on Earth for billions of years. As you sleep tonight, you're taking part in a process that connects you to every other sleeping animal on Earth, from the tiniest mammals to the biggest whales. They all follow the same patterns of rest and recovery. The melatonin in your blood right now is chemically the same as the melatonin in a sleeping mouse, a resting bird, or even some plants that have daily cycles of activity and rest. The slow waves that are building up in your cortex follow the same basic patterns that other mammals' brains do when they sleep. Right now, billions of nervous systems around the world are settling down to sleep. You're part of a huge biological symphony. It can be very comforting to feel connected to the bigger patterns of life. Sleep is not an isolated occurrence. It is an integral component of the fundamental rhythm of existence. The same forces that change the seasons and pull the tides are gently pushing you to rest. The earth is spinning under you, which helps you sleep at the right times. Not only does your bed hold you up, but the whole planet does too. As you start to fall asleep, pay attention to the small changes that are happening in your body and mind. Your breathing is getting slower and more regular. Your heart rate is starting to slow down for the night. Your muscles are starting to let go of the stress they held onto all day. Your thoughts are getting less clear and more like dreams. These changes aren't happening by chance. They're the result of very complex biological processes that your nervous system is controlling with perfect timing. Your brainstem's neurons are making fewer neurotransmitters that help you wake up. Your thalamus is starting to block out sensory information, which keeps your sleep from being disturbed by things that don't need to be. Your pineal gland is sending melatonin into your blood like a soft chemical lullaby. You can fully trust these steps. They have been tested and improved over millions of years of evolution. They've safely carried your ancestors through the night for many generations. They've been working hard for you since before you were born, and they'll keep doing so until you die. You are in the care of the most advanced, dependable, and caring system possible. Feel thankful for the hard work they do for you. Your nervous system never complains, asks for time off, or threatens to quit if things aren't perfect at work. It changes to fit whatever situation you put it in. Stress, irregular schedules, or tough environments, and does its best to give you the rest and recovery you need. You should appreciate it and trust it. As you fall asleep, remember that you're not losing consciousness. You're just entering a different state of consciousness. Your brain will still be busy all night, but it will be busy with things that are going on inside of you instead of outside of you. It won't take in information from the outside world. Instead, it will take in information from your own world, like your memories, feelings, experiences, and dreams. This inward focus doesn't mean turning away from life. It means getting more involved with it. Your brain will try to make sense of and connect your experiences while you sleep, which it can't do when you're awake. It will find links between things that don't seem to be related. It will deal with problems and feelings that come up. It will help you remember the most important things and let less important things fade away. Your nervous system will also use this time to do important maintenance that keeps you healthy and working at your best. It will get rid of the waste products that cells built up during the day. It will fix damage to neurons and other tissues. It will make your immune system stronger and get it ready for the challenges of tomorrow. It will help your physical and mental health by balancing the levels of neurotransmitters and hormones in your body. When you're completely at rest, your nervous system doesn't have to split its attention between maintenance tasks and the demands of conscious awareness. This is when all of this restorative work happens most efficiently. This is why sleep is so important. It's not just a break from activity, it's also a time when your body's most important biological processes can work at their best. You might notice that your thoughts become more fluid and connected as you fall asleep. Memories from different times in your life may start to mix together. Images that look real might turn into images that look like dreams. This is your brain starting to work in sleep mode, when the rules of logic and cause and effect become less strict. Don't fight these changes or try to stay awake. Let your mind go where it wants to. Even if what your brain does while you sleep seems strange or illogical to you when you're awake, you should trust that it knows what it's doing. Sleep's associative thinking is very important because it helps your brain make new connections, deal with emotions, and combine experiences in new and interesting ways. Your nervous system is getting ready to take you on a journey through different levels of consciousness, each of which has its own health and wellness benefits. You'll go from the lighter stages of sleep to the deep sleep stage, where your brain waves will slow down to their most synchronized rhythms, and your body will reach its deepest state of relaxation and restoration. Later in the night, you'll go into the bright theater of REM sleep, where your brain will make up detailed dreams using memory and imagination. You could fly, meet people from your past, or find answers to problems that seemed impossible during the day. All of this will happen on its own, thanks to the complex neural processes that control how dreams are made. During these times of deep sleep and dreaming, you'll go through lighter stages that connect different types of unconscious experiences. Your sleep won't be a single uniform state. Instead, it will be a carefully planned series of different neural activities, each of which will help you recover and feel better overall. Your nervous system will always be on the lookout for your safety during this whole journey. It will keep an eye on your surroundings for sounds or other things that might need your attention. It will keep your heart rate, breathing, and other important functions going. It will make sure you are in the right place and comfortable. You can sleep soundly knowing that the most devoted guardian you'll ever have is watching over you. The way your nervous system protects you while you sleep is very advanced. It can tell the difference between sounds that are just annoying and those that could mean danger. It can tell when the temperature, air quality, or other environmental factors that might affect your comfort or safety change. It can even respond to your dreams, keeping you from doing potentially dangerous things in your sleep by putting you in a state of protective paralysis. Your nervous system's job of protecting you goes beyond just keeping you safe. It also keeps your mind healthy while you sleep. When you dream, your mind processes emotions in a safe, controlled space where you can deal with difficult feelings without having to deal with them in real life. Your brain can think about different situations, try out different reactions, and deal with emotions in ways that make you stronger and smarter. As you fall asleep, keep in mind that you're starting one of the most important things you'll do all day. Sleep isn't time taken away from living. It's an important part of a good life. Sleep gives your body the rest and repair it needs to do everything you do while you're awake. Memory consolidation that happens while you sleep is what makes learning and growing possible. Your mental health and strength are helped by the emotional processing that happens while you sleep. Every hour of good sleep is a gift to your future self. The clearing of waste that happens during deep sleep may help keep you from getting neurodegenerative diseases decades from now. When you sleep, your brain strengthens memories. This helps you learn and remember things that will help you for the rest of your life. REM sleep helps you build the mental tools you need to deal with problems that may come up in the future by processing your emotions. Sleep is a gift you give yourself. It's not just a short-term gift of rest and refreshment, but also a long-term gift of good health, mental clarity, and emotional well-being. Your nervous system is the generous benefactor that makes this gift possible. It works hard all night to make sure you wake up refreshed, restored, and ready for whatever the new day may bring. Let go of everything and let the process take over as your mind fades and sleep takes over. Let go of any tension that is still in your muscles. Let go of any worries or thoughts that are still bothering you from the day. Let your breathing find its natural sleep pattern. Give your nervous system all of your trust and let it take care of you. You are about to go through one of the most beautiful and healing processes in all of biology. Your brain will make slow, synchronized waves that will wash through your neural tissue like gentle waves, cleaning up the mess of consciousness and getting ready for new growth. Hormones that help your body heal and grow will be released. Your immune system will be more alert while you sleep, protecting you when you're most vulnerable. In a few hours, you'll enter the amazing world of dreams, where your sleeping brain will mix memories, feelings, and imagination to make experiences that can't happen in real life. You'll go to places that only exist in your mind and meet people who only exist in your dreams. You might also find answers or insights that have been hiding beneath the surface of your mind. All of this will happen in accordance with ancient rhythms that link you to the most fundamental patterns of life on Earth. Your sleep is a basic part of life, just like the beating of your heart, the rhythm of your breathing, and the changing of the seasons. You're taking part in one of the most important and universal things that happen in life. Have faith in this process. Have faith in your nervous system. Have faith in the wisdom of billions of years of evolution that have made these systems for rest and recovery. You don't have to know everything about how sleep works. You just have to let it happen and trust the systems that know exactly what you need. As the last bits of waking consciousness fade away, know that you are safe, protected, and cared for by the best and most devoted system you could ever think of. Your nervous system will keep an eye on your sleep to make sure you get the rest and restoration you need, while also keeping you safe and comfortable all night. And with that trust, that thankfulness, and that complete letting go of your own nervous system's loving care, let yourself fall asleep in peace. With each breath, feel the soft waves of relaxation wash over you, taking you deeper into sleep. Let your own biology's loving embrace keep you safe through the night. You will wake up at the right time, feeling refreshed and ready for the gift of another day. Good night, dear listener. May the symphony of your nervous system be especially beautiful tonight, and may you wake up tomorrow feeling very thankful for the amazing system that makes all of your experiences, both waking and sleeping, possible. You are in the most loving and capable hands possible, your own. So sleep well